Hello and welcome to Deprogrammed with Keri Smith. Today is Tuesday, September 23rd. Thank you guys for being here. I see some familiar faces. It's not our normal day. It's not the normal day that I stream, but yesterday as some of you know, my husband and I are renovating this house. It's over 100 years old. This is our third year. We probably have 3 or 4 more years to go, to be honest. But we've been working on the backyard, and yesterday we accidentally, with a forklift, broke the internet cable, like pulled the internet cable up and snapped it. And so I couldn't stream until we get that repaired. And some people were in the chat were saying, on my social media, were saying, hey, you shouldn't trust women with heavy equipment. But it wasn't me. In my defense, I agree, but it wasn't me. So yeah, that happened. I'm really excited today because we are finally getting the fence put in. And you might hear my dog. I'm just telling you up front. If there's any barking, I'll have to go and get Tiger because there's lots of people in and out around here today. So welcome. Thanks for being here on an off day. And let me just start by saying, if you haven't gotten a chance to watch the Charlie Kirk memorial from this Sunday, I highly recommend it. It's about 7 hours long. It's amazing. It's maybe the biggest televised revival I've ever seen. It's full of the gospel. There are great speakers like Frank Turek, Rob McCoy, Erica Kirk. She was just incredible. She stood up on this world stage. I mean, I think there were over 10 million people streaming it just on the first day, is what they said. And she stood up on this world stage and talked about the gospel. And she talked about putting Christ first. And then she illustrated Christian forgiveness on this international stage. And it was just beautiful. And I've mentioned this, and I know this is, some of you guys know this. Since Charlie Kirk was murdered, I've had so many people reach out to me about God. And I know some of you have as well. And I've seen people online talking about going to church for the first time, talking about praying for the first time, or maybe the first time in years, and really thinking about these questions of, like, what's the purpose of life? And Frank Turek talked about that a little bit in his remarks at the memorial. And I just think this is it's an illustration of, in the Bible, it talks about how there's several verses about, you intended to harm me, but God intended this for good, for all the lives that will be saved. I'm paraphrasing. That's from Genesis. In Romans, there's a verse that Charlie Kirk actually quoted often about how God can use all things for good, and for the good of those who follow Him. And this is just one of those classic examples where God can work amazing things out of even something evil. He can still find a way to work good out of it. And what I mean by that is you see all these people turning to God. Erica Kirk talked about in her part at the memorial, she talked about how Charlie had said at one point, here I am, God, use me, which is from Isaiah. And she shared that she had privately talked to him about, hey, you should be careful when you say things like that, when you make prayers like that, because God will take them seriously. But Charlie meant it, and God did use him, and he built this, one of the most consequential, influential movements of youth that we've ever seen. And he touched millions of people. And then even in death, they murdered him to shut him up. When I say they, I mean the forces of evil. I mean the left. And here, if you're watching from the left, hear me out. I don't just mean the left is there's also evil people masquerading as part of the right. But I'm saying darkness from a believer standpoint took him out. The devil took him out. And what happened? Well, it's actually being used for good. It's actually bringing people to Christ. God is still using His good and faithful servant, even in death. And it's just incredible to watch. And I've had people who are not believers who are seeing this happen and are asking me questions about it. And it's just, it's a testament to God's power and His grace and His mercy and His, the way that He works in mysterious ways. It's been a beautiful thing. So I would go and watch that memorial if you haven't watched it yet. Mellow Cat says, I bought my first Bible. Local churches were busy this Sunday, and we live in a small town. That's just amazing. God bless. So, one other quick thing. No, I think I covered all the quick things before we start. Okay. So I wanted to talk today about cults. And as some of you know who watch, like, I'm fascinated with cults. I study cults. I left a cult. I was in the woke leftist cult for 20 years. And I have an interest in not just cults, but in true crime. And a lot of the YouTube channels or the podcasters I watch and listen to are actually not in the political space at all. I listen to a lot of true crime journalists and behavior specialists. And there's a show I've mentioned before. I haven't watched it in a while, but I used to be obsessed with watching it. It's called The Behavior Panel. It's 3 different behavior experts. Some of you guys know it. One of those experts is Chase Hughes, and he's a retired U.S. military behavioral expert. He's written several books on influence and persuasion. He embedded with cult recruiters. He's a brilliant guy, and he was on Joe Rogan. I was surprised to see him on Joe Rogan in February, I think it was, because it felt like worlds colliding. There's this sort of political and cultural commentary world online, and then I think of Chase Hughes as being in the true crime behavior analysis side, but he was on Rogan, and I was looking for. He's talked a lot about cult tactics, influence, persuasion, and I was looking for a good video, and I thought, why don't I just pull up, instead of one of his solo videos, I'm going to pull up a conversation he had with Rogan, a clip of it in February, and we're going to start with this because he does a great job of explaining cult recruiter tactics. And I think I have it queued up to the right place. We're going to start right here and listen to a few minutes of this. And then we're going to get into some of what we see happening on the so-called right since Charlie Kirk's assassination. And there are, in my opinion, some very nefarious actors who are doing everything they can to swindle, influence, persuade, manipulate, and take people down an increasingly absurd path, all in the interest of what a con man always looking for: power, influence, money, fame, control, all the same things that you see in every cult. And we're going to talk about some specific examples of that, but I think it's good to listen to what he says about cults first, because you might be able to recognize some of this better. So here we go.
So I got more and more obsessed with it, and I started training people in the government probably around the age of 30 or so. And that was like just a few years before I retired at 38. And the novelty still hasn't worn off for me. I'm still obsessed with that field of study.
So were you trained to train people? Like, how did you go about starting to train people? What was it based on?
It was me. The first group of people I trained was a car dealership, just to see if I could do it. I said, I'm going to go in there and do it for free. And then I started training people in the military. And these are U.S. Navy and other branches. And I'm training them in like these. I got obsessed with this interrogation stuff and how the brain works. And I mostly got obsessed with, if I'm an intelligence officer, my job is to convince somebody to do something that's not in their best interest. Like, I need to convince you to spy for your own country and give us intelligence. Or if I'm an interrogator, I need to convince you to confess to a crime. So I spent time hanging out with people that do cult recruiting out in California.
There's like official people, like human resources for cult recruiting.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like, do cults hire them?
No, I think they join the cult, and the cult says, "Oh, this guy's really charismatic," or he was I think half of these dudes were like ex-club promoters. Like, they got sense. That vibe, like,
right.
Which come by tonight.
Right.
And I spent time in San Bernardino with a couple of people, three people that talked women into doing adult films, like young girls that were 19, 20 years old, just starting college. And I talked and I asked them, what are the methods that you use? What are the steps that you follow? And I watched several of these interactions, and then spent time with interrogators and people who do like timeshare sales and stuff like that, which I don't know if you've ever been at a timeshare sales.
No, I have not.
They're hardcore.
I loved, let me just pause it for a second. I love that he is talking about cult recruiters and then just transitions into people who sell timeshares because it's so true. And it seems like a kind of funny at first, but they use a lot of the same persuasive tactics and to get you to say yes and sign on the dotted line within an hour or two, right?
So I spent time with all these people, and I wanted to figure out what are the elements that make somebody willing to do something that is maybe not in their best interest. And that transformed everything for me. And then I said, we could use all of this stuff from Manchurian candidates, which we can get into if you want to,
Sure.
to whatever, to help people instead of to do the opposite. So I could use the same technique to help a person instead of get them to confess to a crime, because it's just a brain. I'm not learning about interrogation or cult recruiting or anything. I'm just learning where are these little loopholes in the brain. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what cults were these people recruiting people for?
I can't talk about it.
You can't say the name of the cults?
Name.
How many different people did you talk to that were cult recruiters?
6.
6? So there's more than 6. How many cults are active right now?
It was 2. There were 2 cults.
2 cults, 6 recruiters.
Yep. I would call them cults, but
well, I call a lot of things cults, so throw that word around freely.
Let's do it. And these guys were just they had that little Bill Clinton energy. You know what I mean? They just kind of captivated the person they were talking to in this little bubble.
Yeah.
They were all about you. They're really interested in you.
Right.
And
I heard Tom Cruise is awesome at that.
Oh yeah.
I heard when you talk to him, you're like the only person in the room.
Yeah. And it's just that stare.
Yeah.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
Let me tell you guys just for a second. Let me take this down. Some of you guys know this story. I wasn't just in the woke cult for 20 years. I also got invited to the Landmark Forum. Those of you, I think it's more popular in California. Some of you guys know will know what I'm talking about. And like a lot of cults, it is self-help focused and disguised as self-help, like when you first start. And what they do, like a lot of cults, they'll have like friends reach out to other friends and bring them in, and it has some similarities with multi-level marketing schemes. So, you know, kind of like Nexium, the cult Nexium, for example, has some similarities with that. And the Keith Raniere, that cult leader, had background in that. So it has some similarities with that, where a friend brings you in. So when I was invited to that cult meeting, I thought I was going to like a feminist book club. And it was the way she talked about it. It wasn't very transparent about what it was. And when she came to pick me up, my friend, I was on the phone. It was an important work call, and I had to be rude. I was on the call the whole while she drove there, so we didn't get to talk about it in advance. On the way there, we get there. We go into it's a hotel. Go into the lobby. I end the call. We get on the elevator, and I'm starting to ask, like, why are we at a hotel? That we're going to a book club. And we get upstairs, and it's this huge hotel banquet conference room. And it's already started, and there's thousands of people, and there's a woman with like one of those Madonna microphones on, who's on stage and like leading this symposium, this conference, what have you. And we sit down, and she's talking some good self-help stuff. They all do at the beginning. It's all good self-help stuff at the beginning. They're all going to take charismatic con men, cult leaders. They all take some nuggets of truth, and they spin and weave the lies around the nuggets of truth. That's how they sell the lie. That's how they sell the poison. Anyone, if you look at snake oil salesmen, all the way back, any kind of grifter or con man, that's what they do. That's what cult leaders do. That's what bad, evil cult-like ideology does. Woke ideology, woke leftist ideology is based around some kernels of truth. And then they package it with all these lies that you're buying into. Anyway, when I first got there, she's doing self-help stuff from the stage. I watched the presentation. It's engaging. She catches my attention. I'm focused on it. And then at some point I start getting the heebie-jeebies, and I realize I'm looking around, and something she says about those of you who brought friends here today. And I'm looking around, and I'm realizing, oh my gosh, everybody brought someone. Everyone who's in this Landmark Forum thing brought someone. I'm the bringee. I'm supposed to be recruited. This is what's happening. And by the end, they put the hard sell. Believe in yourself, invest in yourself. Here's how much money it is per month to join and be a part of these classes and get all this self-help education and improve your mind. And oh my goodness, they did the hard sell. And I felt that tug, even though ultimately I was like, no, I'm not doing this. Then they have a moment where your friend turns to you and is making the sell in a personal, individual way. Here, it helped me so much. And here's why I did it. And I think you would benefit. And your friend is doing this. And then I still said no. And then my friend said, well, let me put the money up for you and you can pay me back. I'll put up the hundreds of dollars for the initial payment. And no, even more of a no now, but they make it attractive. Like, well, I guess my friend's going to pay for it. And it was so, it's the League of the Fox Family. It was so creepy. And Landmark Forum is huge. I assume it's still as large as it was. Yeah, it builds itself as a personal development program, and it's a cult. Okay, let's just continue. It's some of the stuff he's saying reminds me of Landmark also.
About your mom, and you get that they all had that quality to them. But one of the things that all of them had, the one trait that I think all of those guys had, was they could get you to deviate off of your baseline really quick. And so they can get you to curse. That's step one. They get you to say something that's a little bit outside of a social norm. They would all do that as step one. Every single time.
Huh. So what like in the cults, how would they do that? What would they try to get you to deviate from? What would they try to get you to do?
So their goal was to get you to agree to join the cult. So if I can get you to do something that's outside of your norm, so I use something called elicitation. So instead of me asking questions, let's say we get into the back of an Uber and I want to ask the Uber driver to complain about his job.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of using questions, which are weird, right? So I'm like, hey, do you like your job?
Right. That's weird.
Yeah, weird. It's like saying, hey, how much do you guys make? You say, hey, I just read this article the other day. It said Uber drivers are the most highest respected people out there, and they love their job. They have the highest job satisfaction rating. That's incredible. And the guy turns around like, what?
So you bullshitted them.
Right. So that's called triggering a need to correct the record. That's one of the methods.
Oh.
But I very quickly get your brain to associate a mental script of friend mode. Because he doesn't talk about that with other writers. He bitches about his job to his friends.
Right.
So I'm getting your brain to start shifting into this. I'm behaving as if I'm with a friend.
Right.
So I start getting that behavior out of a person very quickly. So we're just activating a script in that person's mind that goes from I'm with a client to I'm with a friend. And that's that first level deviation of behavior right there.
Okay.
And once you get the script activated, you can start leading them in other directions. So the second step usually, and this goes into Manchurian Candidate stuff, and if you want to talk about Sirhan and all that kind of stuff, we can.
Sure.
But to get them to start making a little bit of an identity agreement. Are you this type of person? So in reality, if I wanted you to, let's say, join a cult, like, are you the type of person, and I'll just have an A-B question.
Okay.
So, in my life, I've discovered there's two types of people. There's people that take action when they know something's right, and there's people that wait and wait and wait. And I'm sure you know people that wait and wait and wait. But I've got you to agree that you're type 1.
Okay.
Because I said, I'm sure you know people, and your head nodded.
Right.
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 So I've got this little agreement of identity. I am a type of person who blank.
Right. So you're influencing a person to sort of go along with whatever narrative you've already created about them.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
And if the moment you get to identity, then you're guaranteeing that you can predict future behavior. And this goes really deep. We can get into hypnosis and all that stuff if you want to. And once I get identity agreement, this is the same thing with politics. You see the exact same thing. Identity gets hijacked, and then I can do anything I want because your identity is involved here. It's not you're agreeing with my ideas. You're agreeing because that's who you are.
Right, but doesn't the person have to sort of respect you first in order to go along with this sort of social change?
We're going to let him answer that question in just a second, but let me talk about this for a second, the identity buy-in. Those of you who are familiar with woke left ideology and what it really is and how it operates like a cult, it is a cult, you will recognize this immediately because it's much more explicit than it is among some of these people who claim to be on the right. When it's on the left, as we currently see it on the woke left, they do identity buy-in explicitly. Not only around like what your so-called identity groups are that you're in, right? They do it around race, sex, sexuality, buy-in, right? But they also do it around morality, being a good person, being on the right side of history. It's like a religion in that they are selling you a morality system. Now, it is a hypocritical morality system. I would say it's an upside down, and it's an immorality system, actually, because everything it does is it elevates and praises vices and sins, and it tries to shame and cancel virtues, to punish virtues. It's upside down Christianity, right? But it is, to its members, it is sold as a morality system, and this is about you being a good person. So think about the people you know who are still in the woke cult. I'm going to think of one person in particular I know in real life who's still in it. Their identity, their sense of being a good person, they bought in with identity. And so even when you give them facts that cause them to question things and waver for a second, they ultimately have to disregard those facts because their identity is so tied to being in this belief system that their sense of self is being attacked. Like they feel personally attacked, and their idea of themselves as a good person and the good people are in this belief system, right? It's put in danger when you give them facts that contradict any of the things they believe. So, for example, one of my friends, who is an otherwise intelligent person, I would say empathetic person, but I would say that her empathy has been hijacked for nefarious ends by the woke left belief system. We've had conversations about trans and kids, for example. A lot of times they haven't looked at the facts about what's happened. You guys know this from having conversations with them. So they will start off by saying, well, kids are not being trans, which is a lie. And when you show them studies and examples of people who were trans as kids, people like Chloe Cole, who are now suing, and there's a whole list of them who are now suing, who are trans as kids, suing the hospitals. When you show them examples, they'll say, okay, well, I guess it is happening, but it's very few. Then when you show them the numbers and contradict that, they say, oh, well, and you show them other progressive countries like the UK that have banned it, who looked at the UK has done a systematic medical review and ultimately banned it because they said there's not enough evidence to support giving children hormones that are potentially sterilizing and cutting off their body parts when they're not at an age of consent, right? So they can wait until they're adults to make those decisions. And if you look at like the 7 progressive countries that have banned it, and you bring this up, they oftentimes don't even know about any of this. And they don't know that the US hasn't done a systematic medical review. So when you give them these facts, this is, again, a person who thinks of themselves, and they are, my friend's intelligent, and they start thinking of the fact, and now there's this cognitive dissonance because they're in this cult that has told them one thing, you're challenging them with facts, and they can see your point of view, but the indoctrination is such that to accept those facts, and they can't just like that change their position on transitioning kids for most of them, because their sense of being a good person who all the cult lingo, right? Like protecting trans children has been sold to them as the exact opposite, as mutilating and sterilizing kids. And so for them to then say, well, I guess I oppose it when it comes to children. This is happening. It's happening a lot. I guess for them to say that, it's not just them changing a position, because their identity is wrapped up in this whole thing. So that's like, I've talked about it like a house of belief before. It's not like changing a window on your house of belief. Like, oh, okay, I'm going to change my position on this one thing. I'm going to, renovate the window, get a new window. No, it's like raising their entire house of belief to the ground, which is psychologically very traumatic for people who have their identity in this belief system. That's why it's hard to get people out of it. And I know a lot of people in the chat who have gotten out of it. I know a lot of people who've watched the show who have come out of it, friends in real life who've come out of it. So, and there are more people coming out of it every day. It is possible. That's why I still do this show. It's still possible to pull people out of that cult. But it is a cult, And a lot of it is that identity buy-in. They're like, it's like sort of like how Chase was saying, the cult person or the person who's selling you the timeshare wants you to end up making a quick decision within that hour or two conversation, but going in on the timeshare or joining the cult, like that when I got taken to the Landmark Forum meeting, like, are you going to join and give us this money? So they're trying to get you to say yes. So they give you an A-B option. They give you this or this, and they say, in my time here on Earth, I've pretty much learned there's two types of people. There's the kind of person who makes quick, confident decisions, and there's the people who hem and haw and never do anything and never progress in life. And I'm sure we both know that second type of person, right? So they're immediately doing forced teaming. That's called forced teaming, where they're putting you in the team here of group A that they want you to be in. And you're like, yeah, I am in group A. And you're thinking like, yeah, that's me. I'm confident and make decisions, or I want to be someone who's confident and makes decisions. And they've already kind of hooked you now for the sale that's going to come later. And your identity is now involved because you're like, I'm a person who makes quick decisions. I'm a person who's confident and is decisive and is a leader. They've got your identity tied in. And woke left does the same. And the A-B option they're giving you is like, you're a good person, right? You want to protect trans children and minorities, right? You want to be anti-racist, right? You want to support women, right? And trans people, right? And gays. And, you're a good person, right? You're on the right side of history, right? And we all know these bigots and these hateful people over here who vote for Trump are not like this, right? Like, I'm sure we know some of those horrible people. That's how they present it. It's this A-B option, and your identity gets wrapped up in the group they want you to be in, the woke group. And I'm a good person. This group is the good people. That's what they're giving you. That's when it comes to woke left. Now, I'm going to argue once we get past this part and we start looking at some of the people on the so-called right who I think are using cult tactics. I'm going to tell you what kind of identity buy-in they're doing, in my opinion. But let's continue. He's got so much great stuff. We're just going to watch a little bit more.
Have to have some sort of an appreciation.
So Rogan is asking him, don't they?
Because your identity's in.
He's like, don't they have to respect you or something first?
Here. It's not you're agreeing with my ideas. You're agreeing because that's who you are.
Right. But doesn't the person have to sort of respect you first in order to go along with this sort of social change? They have to have some sort of an appreciation of you. You have to be impressive.
At the very beginning, yes. But the moment your identity is involved, they can lead it further and further and further. And then, so one of the third steps, there's a million, but if there's an experiment, if Jamie could pull it up, called the Lines experiment with Dr. Solomon Asch.
Lion, like the animal, or L-I-N-E?
Line.
This is the Asch conformity experiment he's about to talk about, which it's so important for people to know about the Asch conformity studies.
Lines?
Line, L-I-N-E. So where this guy was at a table kind of like this, but you're a volunteer at experiment. There's like 15 people in the room. Everybody else but you is in on the experiment. You're the only volunteer in the room. So they show you these lines that are 3 lines on one page, and they show one page that has 1 line on it. So which line on this page is equal to this line over here?
Okay.
So obviously, you're over here on the target line, you're going to pick C.
Right.
Right? I mean, that's glaringly obvious.
Mm-hmm.
So in this experiment, Dr. Asch is doing this conformity experiment. So these other people in the room all go before you, and everybody in the room one at a time says A, 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 and it gets around to the person. And this was almost 100%. 100% of people in the experiment would say A. And it's right in front of their face.
Okay. I think he's a little off on the numbers. From what I recall, it's 75, but it's super high. It's too many people would just go along with the group. They would go along with whatever line everybody else in the room is saying matches or is longest, even though it's right in front of them. They would just conform.
The truth is right in front of their face, and they would go with the group because the group did it. The group is telling them what to choose.
But it's not even slight. Like the difference is so glaringly obvious. It's kind of amazing. How did
Unbelievable.
they pre-pick the people that were going to be the test subjects? Like, did they have any specific things that they were looking for? Because I think there's a lot of people that even if you got 13 people to say A, they would go, "What are you guys talking about? It's C." Like, was there anything about them that they picked? Like, were these people pre-selected for
No.
being? No.
And they ran the experiment.
Do you ever think about yourself in that room? What would you do?
Yeah, and I worry.
What do you do? You?
No, I think in reality, everybody that's listening right now would say, not me. 100% of people would say, I wouldn't do that.
Well, think it kind of depends on your station in life.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to pause it again because this is a great time to make this point where he's talking about most people want to think that they would not conform in that way. And one of the things I saw, hey, Kevin Anderson, what's up? Kevin Anderson says, my only concern, re the experiment, is that the stakes are so low, i.e., so what if I lie about the length of the line, right? That actually makes me more concerned because when the stakes are low, you and you still have pressure to conform, and you conform on something that shouldn't be that hard, then when the stakes are high, I can trust you even less. Like if your life is on the line, I can trust you even less. A great example would be this book. We've done this in book club before. We've talked about it. It's a book that Jordan Peterson recommends, Ordinary Men. This is about a reserve police battalion in Poland. That these are ordinary men. These are men who were reserve police officers. So they weren't police. They were doctors, lawyers, they owned shops, bakeries, what have you. And they got called up to be reserve police officers. And then they were put in charge of executing Jewish people. And this is a historical study of this one battalion and trying to understand how the different types of personalities in that group of men and how they all got coerced into doing this, and the few who wouldn't, and what made them different. And the point being that, like during the COVID years, for example, I had some friends who were saying this whole thing about like, well, I might have been too afraid to speak out against the authoritarian lockdowns and the vax and mask mandates. And I might have been too afraid to do that because of the social pressure and what have you. And privately, yes, I agreed with what you were saying. But I was too afraid to hit like. If one person told me they were too afraid to hit like, because people might see it that they like something I said, but they wanted me to know privately they agreed, right? But they're too afraid to even do that. But trust me, they're like, if the stakes ever got high, I would say something. Well, no, actually, if you can't say, if you don't have enough of backbone when the stakes are low, then I certainly don't expect you to stand up and be courageous when your life is on the line. That's how I view that. So let's continue.
Where you're at. When I was young, I might have just said A because everybody was saying A.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to be an idiot.
So that's one of the things they did. They replicated the experiment on college campuses. Whereas people are highly suggestible. They're young. They're still trying to figure out who they are. And so a lot more suggestible. And this is, if you think of the way that social media manipulates our brain, it falsifies tribal agreement. And it makes us say A.
Right.
So we're willing to ignore everything that we see because we're seeing a tribe say that something else is happening.
Okay.
So it'll override our brain. And if there's one thing, like if you just one thing that matters a lot is that our brains are not capable of of overcoming this technology. We don't have a firewall, and technology has outpaced our brain's ability to adapt to it. So I can falsify a tribe around you that says, oh, this is all happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Phil, you and I both are friends with Dr. Phil, calls this the tyranny of the fringe, where this fringe pretends to be a group of 1 million people when it's just a small group that gets over a lot of attention. It's really inflated, so it looks like it's more popular than it actually is. And if your identity is already there, then that automatically makes sense, and we'll ignore just basic facts.
Okay, let me make this point here. It's a good place to do it. The tyranny of the fringe. We definitely saw this with woke left. So woke left started as a fringe. It was primarily online and in universities and college campuses. They infiltrated through the institutions, and it was spread online through social media, Tumblr, Facebook, Twitter, and then through the corporate media started speaking woke. And then suddenly you have politicians. Hillary Clinton, I remember during the 2016 debates, I recognized immediately when she used a woke cult phrase, and she said implicit bias. She was talking about white people having implicit bias, and I'm like, whoa, this has reached the mainstream. But it started as this fringe, and their goal was to convince liberals and people who thought of themselves and their identity is wrapped up in being liberal, right? To convince liberals that this is liberalism, this very illiberal, authoritarian, pro-censorship, pro-violence, pro-murder ideology that's about abusing children, grooming children, mutilating children, sterilizing children. It's about being racist, pushing racism. It's about being sexist, pushing sexism towards men. Racism towards white people. They were able to convince the liberals, this tiny fringe that started off small, that this was liberalism, and they did the identity buy-in. You're on the right side of history, right? You care about marginalized groups, right? You care about fighting oppression, right? And they sold it. And one of the mistakes of the woke left was, instead of isolating and socially shunning these interlopers who were selling something that was contrary to liberalism, instead of isolating them and shunning them, the left ended up platforming them, making them celebrities, making them famous, making them almost like cult leaders, like I used to call them the high priests and the high priestesses of woke left. People like Robin DiAngelo, Ibram X. Kendi, Sean King, Malcolm X, these people who were sort of the mouthpiece, became the mainstream mouthpiece for this belief system. And they let it destroy the left and almost destroy this country. It became so powerful. It infiltrated all of our institutions. It spread beyond the colleges and universities into pre-K through 12th grade. It spread into all of our public schools. It spread into the media, into gaming, into knitting, all of our hobby groups. It spread into bicycling. I have some bicyclers in the chat, right? You know who you are. It spread into swing dancing, the sewing community. It went into all this woke ideology went into Christian churches. This anti-Christian ideology went into Christian churches and cannibalized them like a virus, like turning them into something else, like a parasite. And I mention this because there is currently, as you guys know, I talk a lot lately about the woke right. What is now being called the woke right. I'm going to call it that until there's a better name that emerges. The woke right is also authoritarian, like the woke left. They're also identitarian. They view the world as this competition for power among identity groups, and we have to redistribute the power. They just change the order of which identity groups are at the top and the bottom. We have some of these people now who, I admit, I'll be the first to admit, no, they're not powerful like the woke left yet. They don't run all the institutions like the woke left yet. They're a fringe like the woke left used to be. And they are currently doing something similar. Whereas the woke left preyed on liberals, these guys are preying on Christians and conservatives. Now, some of them are at the point where they are openly saying, we are not conservatives. And I appreciate that honesty when they get to that point. But a lot of them are still saying they're conservative when they're anything but. And they're talking about just needing to destroy the Constitution, needing to return to feudalism. Some of them are saying it's time for tyranny. Some of them are saying it's time for fascism. Fascism is the only solution to communism, they're basically saying fascism is the only solution to woke left. And these people are pushing very anti-American, anti-Constitution ideas. They're not conservative ideas. They're not Christian ideas. And yes, it's still a fringe, but this is what he's talking about right here, how it's the tyranny of the fringe. It starts off small, and sometimes all you need is 10%, I think is what studies say. You need 10% to grow a movement, a revolution, right? So yeah, I'm concerned about that. And for the people who say, hey, your channel's about pulling people out of the woke left cult, it still is. And I haven't changed the purpose of the channel. But when I see this thing emerging, which helps the woke left, by the way, this emergence of the woke right helps the woke left. It has the potential end goal of smearing and dividing MAGA, the Republican Party, conservatives, Christians, of infiltrating churches like woke left did. It has the potential of destroying this coalition that produced all this cultural change and pushback against woke left, this coalition that helped to get Trump elected. It has the potential to do that. That's why I call it sometimes the handmaiden of the woke left. It's the right hand of the woke left. Let me tell you, there are lots of people I talk to in real life who I've been talking to for years, and some in the chat, but I'm thinking in particular one friend, okay? This is a real friend, in each other's homes all the time. This person had just gotten to the fence. Like and I know a lot of people like this who you think, well, how can you still be in the woke left world this many years in, right? There are still people there who are waking up, who haven't hit their moment yet. But this person had just started to get there on the trans and kids issue, and had actually come to me and said, Keri, I think I understand finally what you're talking about. This isn't liberal, like this pro-censorship stuff and censoring doctors and stuff. And this thing isn't. And they were sort of starting to see it. Now, their identity is wrapped up in being a liberal. So what's important for me is to help them see that this is not liberalism. Because that's how I can get around the identity buy-in. Because they're like, I'm a liberal on the right. And so the first thing I try to do is separate liberalism from leftism for them. Because it's too hard for me to try to get them to abandon their whole identity as a liberal right away. But I can at least correctly point out that woke leftism is not liberalism. It's illiberal. It's authoritarian, pro-censorship, pro-violence. And and it's pro-racism, pro-sexism, all these things. And so if I can separate those two things in their mind, and then I can say, and it's great that you're a liberal, because this over here is illiberal. And because you're a liberal, you can't be a part of that. That's how I've helped to move people out of it. At least that's what's worked in my experience. I know there's lots of different ways to talk to people about it. That's where I naturally go when I'm talking to them. So I've had some people like this friend I'm thinking of who we had just gotten to a place of them being on the fence and actually maybe coming over to the center a little bit and saying, okay, I can see how this is not liberalism. I can see how this part is wrong. This is anti-free speech, starting to get fired up about it, right? And now I'm afraid with this emergence of what people are terming the woke right for now, that they're looking at people who are being mainstreamed and platformed like Nick Fuentes, who didn't even vote for Trump and told his supporters not to vote for Trump, is now being put on large podcasts and promoted. Like Russell Brand just had him on. Russell Brand's a supposed Christian who just had him on to promote him. And they're trying to make him seem more palatable now to conservatives. And, you know, the mainstream media that these people still listen to is calling him a Trump supporter and highlighting the really horrible anti-conservative, anti-Christian things he said. And they're looking at him and going, wait a minute, that is a Nazi. Right after I got them to understand that, you know, there's not this huge Nazi boogeyman over here. And then they're seeing the ones who are the actual neo-Nazis. And they're like, okay, yeah, it is all not. I'm going back over here. I'm laughing about it because it's just, it's so comical. If you had scripted this, it'd be like, I don't know if I can believe that this is what's going to happen, but this is where we're at. This is what we're allowing, some of us or some people are allowing to happen. And that's what I'm afraid of happening on a mass scale, is maybe the woke right never becomes as powerful as the woke left, but they are recruiting. They are getting a little larger and more influential now. And at the very least, they have the power of helping push people back into the woke left cult and justifying all that woke left crap, or helping them to try and justify it anyway, and to strengthen that whole ideology that we just started chipping away at, that we just had some cultural wins against. And now you want to give them this help and this assistance. And that is what I'm worried about happening. That's why I'm talking about it when I talk about the woke left. Okay, let's continue.
And it's not about the right or the left. It's both of those sides have been doing this stuff for a long time.
See?
But if I can get you to think that most of your tribal members agree to X, then most people, like 90% of people, will say, okay, X is true.
Well, especially with social media, right? Because obviously it'd be about something that's a little bit more complex than the size of a line, but you're so easily manipulated because it's not really just people that are responding. It's a lot of bots.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that more and more lately. I was watching this video today and somebody pointed out after the video, look how many bots have retweeted this video. And it was astounding. So it's like, oh, there's a narrative that someone's trying to push because of this selectively edited video.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Well, you're a dragon believer. I saw that.
So the bots, he's absolutely right. A lot of the people pushing the so-called woke right stuff, the ones who are like Jew obsessed, the Jews, like, you know, they're in all of my comments and calling, you know, vicious, nasty people. And they sound like leftists, the crazy stuff they say, the hateful stuff full of malice, the death threats, all that stuff is like the woke left. A lot of those people, some of those people are not real. Some of those people are bots being operated from Pakistan and other places. But what's the point of a bot campaign? It's to make something appear more popular than it is and to attract real people. And I also know real people who are now saying this stuff and behaving in this way. It is attracting some people. I don't know what percentage of it is bots, what percentage of it is real, but it's both. It's a mix of both. Let me skip ahead just a little bit because they kind of joke here about how one of those idiots on the View said that Joe Rogan is a dragon believer or something.
One, Osho's one where the lady ran it, and he was kind of like sort of just this very odd eccentric guru, and she was an assassin.
I didn't know this.
Oh, you didn't watch that?
No. Like, wow, they're barefoot, walking on grass, they're eating natural.
I think so.
Wow.
Someone
Okay, here they're about to, so they were talking about a specific cult. Now they're about to talk about cults in general.
in the Pacific Northwest, I believe it was Oregon. So they take over a town and they actually bus in homeless people so that they can pump up their numbers and vote to take over the town.
Oh, man.
Essentially what some people were accusing the Biden administration of doing with leaving the borders open for illegals and then allowing them to vote. Same sort of deal. So they took over this town and they poisoned a bunch of people. It's like really crazy. It's crazy documentary. But and then eventually it falls apart.
Isn't that most cults? Like you look at it from the outside, you're like, wow, they're barefoot, walking on grass, they're eating natural stuff, organic stuff.
Having such a good time.
They sing together, they're having this good time. And then they take you into the room.
Yeah.
And they say, you know what, Joe, you've reached the level. Aliens live in your butthole.
And they're going to get them out. Yeah. Something along those lines.
Something crazy.
It's a lot of them are sex cults. If they're not sex cults, they're like money cults or power cults or, or ideological cults, which I think progressivism is. I think it's an ideological cult. And I think that people, they enjoy being around people that are very confident that they're correct. Yeah. When someone if most of us what is life all about? So many questions. And if you come across someone who has all the answers and they're so confident about it, it's very attractive.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by the Farmer's Dog.
Okay.
We all want to do the best for our dog.
It's I'm going to continue.
For cults, were they open with you about this stuff, or did you kind of figure it out by talking to them?
I signed a ridiculous non-disclosure agreement with each one of them individually.
The cults have NDAs.
No. The main
individuals.
The main organization did not know I was there.
Oh, I see.
And it was mostly they would go around the mall. They spend time around these shopping mall areas and talk to people. Yeah. And it was all kind of very basic at the beginning. So cult indoctrination is a longer process. It's not like, hey, let me talk to you for 5 minutes. And you're like, yeah, I'll join your cult and we'll worship aliens and stuff together. It's a long process where the deviation escalation continues to increase over time. And it's the exact same way if you're programming some Manchurian candidate Or if you're a hypnotist and you're seeing a client, you want to get them to deviate from their normal behaviors, right? To fix their behavior.
Right.
So it's not all bad. So we can use a lot of those same techniques to help somebody instead of hurt them. That's what I started discovering over the years. And I've studied like how to access every loophole in the human brain. And the fastest way to do that is through novelty and authority, number one. And there is nothing faster in the human brain that'll give you that kind of access.
Novelty and authority. Like, give me some examples of that.
So let's say you and I are living 10,000 years ago, 15,000 years ago. The average tribe of people was like 150, 120. And let's say your job and my job was to go and collect fish in a bag and then kind of bring it back to the tribe at the end of the day. And every day we went to the same spot. It's a great spot. We walked by this bush, this big ass bush. And one day we're going back and talking about the fish we got. And you hear a stick snap behind that bush that we haven't heard before. So it's an unexpected deviation from your mental script of what's going to happen. Does this make sense so far? So we're walking by the bush, the stick snaps. Now what's generated in that moment is a tremendous amount of focus. Like there could be a threat. It could be a rabbit that we can eat. Right. So a threat or a value is how our brain responds to something new and something unexpected. Is it a threat? Is it valuable? He's acting like a dumbass. He's obviously in on the experiment.
The other person on the other side was actually dead. And
And authority is the second piece. Whatever it is, we develop these apps in our head. And when something interrupts one of those programs, our brain automatically says, this is different. This is not expected. I need all of my focus down on this one thing.
Okay.
And that's how novelty starts to trigger our brain. Makes sense so far?
Yes.
And authority is the
Oh no, I'm speaking. You can't lip read. Oh no, I'm so sorry. I had to mute it because of my dog. Where's Anthony to tell her? You guys, I do this a lot. I'm sorry. What I was saying is he was talking about, I ran past it a little bit, but he's talking about something novel that happens in your day. Like think of Scientology, for example. We have certain scripts that we run that are like our patterns of behavior in a day. Like this is my script for what I normally get up and brush my teeth and get dressed, take a shower, go to work. This is my script for going to lunch, the break I usually take. Now, if something unusual and novel happens, you're going to become super focused on it. It's going to draw your attention, like that twig snapping behind the bush that he gives in the caveman example, right? If it's kind of a normal interruption, like something normal, like somebody asking for directions or some kind of normal interaction that maybe doesn't happen every day, but it's a normal thing that might happen, that doesn't require the same amount of focus. But if somebody steps up to you, like Scientologists often do, and they ask you something that nobody's ever asked you before, like you're walking, you're on your lunch break, and they step up and say, hey, I've got 5 questions for you, and you have 30 seconds to answer. Do you want to do this personality test with me? And it's intriguing. It's like, oh, what personality? Yeah, what kind of personality am I? They're also pulling at your identity a little bit there. And so that is novel and gets your attention. and requires more focus because it's so outside the norm of your usual pattern. And it's not the usual kind of disruption of your pattern of like, hey, like yesterday, somebody stopped me on the road. Do you know how to get to such and such restaurant? Yeah, it's up there. That's still pretty normal. So cults will often introduce something novel that requires a lot of focus and attention, like this hook. And I would argue that some of the people, I'm going to show you some clips in a little bit, but some of the people who claim to be on the right, who are pushing a lot of the craziest conspiracy stuff right now that verges on QAnon territory, are people who are selling you something so new and novel. Oh my gosh, guys, I'm going to convince you that Harvey Weinstein is actually innocent, but you have to watch my 12-part series behind this paywall. And you have to pull it all apart in this very complicated, series on where I'm going to get to it eventually, right? Or, hey guys, it's actually Israel who assassinated Charlie Kirk, and you've got to come. I'm going to drip feed you stuff that's actually nothing and never give the evidence. But trust me, I don't know, but I know. Come watch behind my paywall as I continue to drip this out. I'm going to show it to you eventually. This hidden knowledge, right? That's what they're doing. It's something new. They're going to hit you with something that is a novel thing that nobody's ever said that before, or nobody's ever done a 12-part series on that before. Harvey Weinstein's innocent, or like, oh, Bridget McCrone is actually a man. OMG, let me pay for this 12-part series. Yes, gnosis. There you go. Lindsay talks about this a lot, and he can give you a much better academic synopsis of it than I can. But I'm talking about how it's presented and how I'm receiving it, which is like, oh, I better get on that. And some of this, like I said, like when I was asked to that landmark forum thing, I felt the tug, even though I ultimately didn't buy in. But I felt the tug, and I feel the tug with some of this crazy stuff. Oh, maybe I should pay and watch that 12-part series. No. We're going to talk more about how to be discerning after this. But so that's where he's talking about novelty. Now, right after novelty, what did he say? He said authority. They have confidence, and they speak with authority as if they know and they have the hidden knowledge, and they're going to give it to you if only you continue to pay for these self-improvement, personal development courses, and you throw down more money, or you buy the new t-shirt, or you go behind the paywall. You have to continue buying in, but eventually, and at some point, you've bought in so much. If you watch cult documentaries, you see how much money people spend to be a part of these things, and you've already invested. This is called the sunken cost fallacy. You've already sunk so many costs into it that now there's even less incentive for you to leave because you've blown so much money. I'm thinking about the twin, what is it? The Twin Souls cult, for example. And that was one where people would just buy in more and more, pay money to take this development course. And you got to try find your twin soul, and you pay this money, and then you can become a facilitator, like a lot of these call. But you got to pay to be a facilitator. Then you got to pay this much money, and you're throwing in thousands. Or think of, for my true crime fans, think of Jody Hildebrandt. Jody Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke, who were thankfully convicted of child abuse. But I'm glad that we saw the justice system work in that case, and I hope they don't get parole anytime soon. Jody Hildebrandt was running a personal development cult. Hers was loosely based around Mormonism, and some of the men whose wives convinced them to join these courses and these seminars and to do these quote unquote therapy sessions with her were paying tens of thousands of dollars over time to be abused and hectored by this evil woman, and eventually separated from their wives by this woman, to be poisoned by her, all in the interest of what? Kind of like woke left. They're selling you the very opposite of what it is. Woke left sells you racism disguised as anti-racism. This cult, Jody Hildebrandt's cult, was selling you a stronger marriage but it was actually ending in divorce. One of the men that was in her cult said if he had to estimate, her cult was probably responsible or partially responsible for the divorce of hundreds, if not thousands of couples. And then they moved into child abuse. So if you guys are familiar with that story, then I think that'll help you understand that part of it. Okay, here we go. Let's continue.
Second piece.
So what would be an example that someone would use as like novelty to get like novelty and authority? If you want to get someone to follow you, like what would be novelty that you would apply?
Give me any scenario and I'll tell you.
Okay, you're trying to get someone to join a cult.
Yeah. So the novelty right away is I'm going to approach you and say something or ask you a question that you've never been asked before, and that there's no possible way that your brain could have gotten ready for that scenario. And it could be something ridiculously stupid. It'd be like, hey, did you see these guys fighting outside here last week? Or you're walking up and you say, hey, I'm going to ask you 3 questions, but you only have 12 seconds to answer. No one's ever said something like that.
Okay, so you're just getting them out of their comfort zone. You're getting them into like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah, we're breaking a pattern.
Okay.
So we're all running on patterns all the time. The moment a pattern is broken, we have tremendous focus. So focus is the first step to hacking the mammalian brain. Authority is next. And authority is like, if you look at the Milgram experiment, have you heard of this?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Have you gone deep on it?
Not really. I mean, but explain it to people so they know what you're talking about.
Jamie, can we bring up a picture of the box? The shocking box from this experiment is just
essentially they told people that they had to keep shocking people, and then they did it to the point where they thought the other person on the other side was actually dead, and they kept shocking.
Yeah. And so
what year was this?
1962 at Yale University. This is a variation of the experiment, but just go to the third one right there. So that's Stanley Milgram standing over that machine right there. So you'll notice on the bottom right, it says danger, severe shock right there.
Yeah.
So you're essentially told the guy's on the other side of a drywall wall. He's in another room, but you can hear him yelling every time you shock. And every time you're asking him these questions and he gets the answer wrong, he's acting like a dumbass. He's obviously in on the experiment.
Right.
But these people think they're shocking this guy. And in real life, man, I had that in airplane mode. So in real life, this guy is he's running a script. He's a participant in the experiment. He's in on it. But as the person's getting shocked, you hear him scream, you hear him say, I want to get out of here. I don't want to do this anymore. I have a heart condition. He's banging around. And then at around 300 volts, and it goes up to 450 on this machine, 300 volts, no more sound. He stops answering questions. And these people are sitting there at the machine, kind of turning around to this guy in the lab coat that's running this experiment. And the guy in the lab coat saying, well, it's important that you continue. The experiment requires that you continue. And they keep going. They keep delivering electric shocks to this guy that was screaming before and is now silent. He's not even answering these questions on the test anymore.
Did everybody do it?
So before the experiment started, these bunch of psychologists got together and they said, like, all right, who's going to go all the way through? Who's going to do everything? And they thought 0.4%, something like that. It would have to be a psychopath. It would have to be somebody that was malicious or wanted to hurt people. And after the experiment was conducted, 67% of people went all the way. And this is...
Okay, let me pause this for a second. This brings me back to this book, Ordinary Men. So they go through the different personality types that went along with this, with exterminating Jews. They're not all psychopaths. Now, first of all, when he says 0.4%, they expect it to be psychopathic and that those guys would go along with it. I personally think the number of psychopathic people who have cluster B personality disorders, whether they're antisocial personality disorders, like people that we colloquially call psychopaths and sociopaths, okay, whether they're those people or borderline personality disorder or histrionic personality disorder or narcissistic personality disorder. Those are the 4 kinds of cluster B personality disorders, also used to be called character disorders. I would say these people are not so much mentally ill as they are morally ill. These people have a character problem. They do not behave like normal people. And I do not think it's 0.4%. The latest estimates I've seen I think we're around like 4% actually, but I think it's higher than that. There's a great show, I've mentioned it many times, my friend Josh Slocum does, called Disaffected, if you're more interested in that, where he specifically talks about looking at cultural problems through that psychological lens. But so first of all, I think it's a higher number of people who are in that cluster B personality disordered space. But second of all, as they found in the study, the milligram experiment, you really need to read more about it if you don't know a lot about it. What they found was that it wasn't just those people. It was a full like 67% who went all the way after they thought the other person was dead. They continued administering the shock. And this book comes to some of the same conclusions about the different personality types that participated. Yes, there were those who were sadists, who were already what you might call a psychopathic personality type, antisocial personality type. There were those kinds of people, sadists, who loved it. We all know some of those kind of people. We saw them. I think God ripped the mask off of them during COVID. And these are the people who loved enforcing the anti-liberty rules on people. These are people who they didn't do it begrudgingly because they had to keep their job, and maybe they were cowards, but the ones who loved it and relished in it, who, you know, the ones I'm talking about, who got off on it, enforcing these authoritarian rules, anti-liberty rules on people. That's the psychopathic types, in my opinion. The sadists, they like inflicting pain. They like the control. They went along here in this book in history. But then also the overwhelming majority were not. The ones who went along with it were not. They were, what was happening with them? Social coercion. It goes back to the Asch conformity experiment. They were conforming to what their group was doing or what they thought was now the new norm. They were conforming to social pressure. And then there were also some of them who were motivated, obviously within that group, people who are motivated by fear. So the important takeaway from this, in my opinion, of what he's saying here about the milligram experiment and about this book, Ordinary Men, is that somewhere around 67 to 75% of the population are followers, and they will go along with whatever is culturally dominant or dominant within their ecosystem or environment, or in the case of some of these online influencers who are now pulling people into QAnon type conspiracy theories, they would go along with anyone that they see as an authority. Think of Candace Owens, and she's on the case. She's gonna crack it for you. She's gonna lay out Ian Carroll's doing this too. Follow me in my video. I'm gonna reveal who really killed Charlie Kirk. Like this kind of stuff. Oh, I'm so glad we've got these people asking questions to get to the bottom of this. They're not that different from flat earthers. Just because, let me say this, the media lied to us. All of the institutions failed us. I was right there with you. If you're new to this channel, let me tell you, I never took the jab. I did not follow the mask ordinances. I did not wear them on planes. I got kicked out of stores, a doctor's office, other place for not wearing them. I did not conform. I do not conform with trans and kids. I've spoken at city council meetings. I speak about it on my show all the time. I've never gone along with that. So you're not talking to someone who's like a conformist and is like, oh, we should trust the media. No, I do not trust the media. But because the media and all the institutions failed us, the CDC failed us, the government failed us, they lied to us, they gaslit us, they propagandized us, they basically it was kind of like a psychological abuse that we went through. What's happened is you now have all of these people, the people who are followers, the 67 to 75%, who are going to various places looking for someone or something to trust. Chase Hughes is about to talk more about this, about how a lot of people who lack confidence, they want a confident person to follow. Well, who comes in to take advantage of that? Cult leaders. Who comes in to take advantage of that? Con artists and grifters. A confident person who's going to sell you, just for these 7 easy payments. You too can get to the truth that Harvey Weinstein is innocent and Bridget McCrone is a man. Yes. So my message and we're going to watch more of this, but I'll tell you up front, you don't have to wait to the end. My message is to be just as discerning as you are about the clown mainstream media, the corporate media. Just as discerning as you are about them, you need to be that discerning about who you are listening to and following and imbibing every day online. I have to be just as discerning. That's why I pray all the time about it. I cannot do it by myself. I have to ask for help. I also talk to friends and get their gut reactions to things and what they think, because once I've figured out that someone is willfully leading me down a dark path, like, I'm done. I'm not going to imbibe your poison anymore, except from a critical lens. Be just as discerning.
So what we're really dealing with here is not an experiment. It's a person being talked into murder in less than an hour. A regular, normal human being talked into murder.
67% of them.
67%. And 250 volts is enough to kill you. Would you agree? If you have the right amps.
I don't know, but I believe you.
Yeah. 100% went to 250.
Jeez.
100%. So,
Jeez.
yeah.
So that could kill you. 100% at least attempted murder.
Yeah. And I train sales teams all the time. They're like, oh, we have, it's hard to sell this product or this thing. And I'm like, I show them this thing and like, where's the sales script these guys use at Yale University? There wasn't a script. It's not like, oh, let me get the perfect words on the phone for this telemarketing company.
Right.
There's no script. There's no hypnosis. There's no like NLP stuff going on where I have to say these little magic words. And I kind of view that aspect of persuasion like the guys that are obsessed with sales scripts. It's like Harry Potter. Like, there's no magic words that are going to make someone take action. We take action based on the mammalian brain. And what was present there at Yale University, if you're the volunteer there, you respond to an ad in the paper you've never responded to before. Novelty. At a university you've never been to. At a building you've never been in. With two people you've never met. In a room you've never been in. Sitting in front of a machine that's absolutely foreign to you. It's alien. Every single step of the way was novelty. And then the guy in the lab coat, they made him like, I think he was 6'7". And he's running the experiment. And we have this stuff called white coat syndrome where we respond to doctors.
Mm-hmm.
And there's even research where people were given diagnoses and that for things they didn't have, and they developed the symptoms because a doctor has told them this. And that's how powerful novelty plus authority is.
The authority, what he's calling white coat syndrome, you guys all can think of a recent example. This was during COVID. So first they silenced the doctors and scientists who were urging caution, who were some of them openly contradicting COVID policy guidelines and saying, no, actually the science doesn't support this. Those who were questioning, pushing this novel vaccine on people, those people were silenced. And then the ones that they let speak, the white lab coats they let speak, were these cartoonish figures. What's his name? Who's that? You guys know, the fat guy with like the beard and mustache guy who's like the joke doctor. You look at him on Twitter and you're like, how does this guy get away with this? This con artist is like taken seriously. It goes on all the news. He's on all the MSNBC and CNN all the time. It starts with an H. Somebody in the chat help me out. That one doctor who was platformed everywhere. Also Fauci, of course, who famously said he is the science. If you disagree with him, you disagree with science. These con artists, these white lab coat authority figures that people are more likely to trust because they wear that white lab coat, right? Hoffetz, was that his name? He always wore the coat too. He always wore the coat on his, a lot of times on him. Peter Hotez, thank you, Rhaegar Targaryen, for the win. Peter Hotez, I can't help, when I think of him, I laugh because he's such a clown. And we gave him so much authority and power. I say collectively, I don't mean all of us, no. But as a society, platformed this guy, treated him like he had knowledge, like he was someone to follow, and so gross. Okay, so there's this lab coat syndrome that he talks about, and there's an element of people who put off the aroma of authority. I would call it the aroma of authority. that get people to comply. And he doesn't mention this example, but I'm going to mention it. So he talks about the milligram experiment, but a great real life example. And if you're interested in true crime, you'll know about this. And if you're not, you might want to go watch it. There's a movie that came out that's a dramatized version. It's not a documentary. It is a drama. It is very dark and disturbing. It's called Compliance. And it's about the strip search phone call scam that happened in the 90s. I don't know if you guys remember this. Again, my true crime people will. It was a guy who called, in the end, I think it was like 70 different fast food restaurants and pretended to be a police officer. And he was calling from payphones using prepaid phone cards. So it was very hard for them to track him at first. And he would call a McDonald's, for example, and ask to speak to the manager. And he would say, I'm calling from such and such police department. He was very convincing. And we had several reports that one of your female employees, so-and-so, is stealing from the cash register or stealing from another person's purse or stealing from whatever. And we have dispatched officers to your location, but we're going to need you to take her into the back room and help us conduct an investigation. In almost all of these cases, not all of them, but most of them, the managers, the other employees that they were targeting participated in this. And in some cases, it ended with some of the most disturbing, disgusting, shocking violations of these women who were accused by the random stranger on the phone pretending to be a police officer. In one case, they took the girl into the back room, and he eventually, over the course of several hours of talking to the manager and a female manager on duty, got them to, they escalated it. They got them to transgress more and more. So at first it's like, we need you to go through her handbag and look for the money that she stole. Okay, you haven't found the money. Okay, we need you to look through all her pockets. Okay, you haven't. And then eventually they would say, we need you to do a strip search. So, if you can't help me with this, I need an employee there who can help. Take her clothes off, take her underwear off, have her do jumping jacks. I need you to look inside. Okay, now I need you to put your hand inside. They would have them sexually violate these employees. This is what he's talking about with the milligram experiment. Within the space of an hour, because of that authority figure in the room, they got people to comply and to think that they were administering shock to someone to the point of death because the doctor told them it was necessary for the experiment. This makes me almost want to vomit talking about it. And this happened in the 90s in this spate of strip search phone call hoaxes. They ended up catching a guy and convicting him for a couple of the cases, but they think he or others may have been responsible for, there were, like I said, up to 70 of these. And it wasn't just McDonald's. I think they called it Pizza Hut. They were calling different fast food places and having a female employee taken off the floor into the back room. And then just by pretending to be an authority figure and talking like a police officer, getting these employees to sexually violate the employees who worked for them. It was incredible. Yes, Codex 70. Yeah, there were probably copycat callers as well because it started to make the news that this was happening. The dramatized movie about it is so disturbing, and I can watch disturbing stuff. I know not everybody has the stomach for it, but even I was like, I almost couldn't finish it. It was so dark. It just makes you want to cry. Anyway, that's a great example of what he's talking about how people use authority. I know I'm going off on some rabbit holes. We're about to get to an example of Candace Owens, but I wanted to give you an extreme example that you might know in real life of someone using authority to get people to do stuff that's outside the baseline range of their normal rational behavior.
There are people talked into murder in under an hour. And there's no magic recipe to do it. It's authority and novelty. And authority has 5 components if you want to just go into them. So that's confidence. Obviously, somebody's got to be really confident to be an authority figure. And this is just a conviction in my belief and a generalized belief in my head that everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be okay. Discipline is number 2. And discipline, I don't say discipline.
Let me stop here. I want to thank someone, and then we're gonna watch a clip of Candace. WG, thank you so much, dude, for the very generous super chat for supporting the channel for $100. He says, "Hi, Keri. I promise the chat will absolutely change your life. As the only YouTuber I follow, I see you're ready to take the next logical step and agree with literally everyone that Israel was behind Custer's last stand and current NFL officiating. Blink 5 times to agree." I love it. I love the sense of humor. I think you have to approach bad actors and bad ideology with humor and tact and keep your joy intact. And thank you for calling me back into a place of humor for a second. I just so appreciate it. Yes. The funny thing is, WG, obviously, I have a personality type that in the past I have fallen into the woke cult. Clearly, my friend thought I was easily suggestible enough that they invited me to the landmark forum thing. I'm happy to say I did not join. But we kind of joke about, like, there's a cult up in Waco that I want to visit, not the Branch Covidians. This is a different cult, a new cult, but I do want to visit because I'm curious. Like I said, I study cults. I'm interested in them, learning more about how they work. And we were joking, me and my husband and a friend, about like, you better be careful when you go, because Keri might join. It's like that Portlandia sketch, that Portlandia sketch where they end up joining the cult by accident. Anyway, thank you. Your super chat made me laugh. Just really quickly, Codex says Jim Jones was selling egalitarianism. Yes, he was. And he was heavily embedded in Democratic politics. Jim Jones was selling egalitarianism and ended with everybody being equally dead. Yes. Andrew Knapp for $5. Thank you, Andrew. Says Dr. Fauci has a giant portrait of himself behind his desk. Your tax dollars at work. There's a lot of people, a lot of narcissists I could point to have pictures of like paintings of themselves. There was a woman I used to work for who had like 10 paintings of herself all around the house. And they weren't like comedy, or they weren't meant to be funny. And that's I don't know, that's a big red flag about narcissism. I think. I don't know. I have a lot of pictures of me and my husband, but not like these sort of where you're making someone out to be like a saint and they're painted like those portraits of where you paint your dog as royalty, but it's you. I don't know. Anyway, that tells me a lot about Fauci. Okay. This has already gone long. I want to show a couple of things. So one of the people who I think has been influencing a lot of people who are otherwise intelligent to go down a rabbit hole of just insanity is Candace Owens. Candace Owens is someone, if you don't know her past, she was also on the woke left, like a lot of us were. But she did a few things while she was there that are pretty concerning. And I don't know if she's ever actually taken responsibility for these. I mean, she admitted that she did them, but I mean responsibility in terms of like recognizing that they were bad and apologizing. One of those is that she created a website to dox conservatives or anybody that did not have did not speak woke beliefs. It was called Social Autopsy, and it would track what people said online and on social media and sort of out you if you were a conservative, if you weren't woke. Then at some point she supposedly left the woke cult and she started speaking a lot of truth, and I bought in and I thought she was doing great work. When she appeared on Dave Rubin with Blair White, is, at least from what I remember, I think that was my first red flag, where because of her behavior, not because of anything she claimed to believe, but because of her behavior, I thought this woman, it might be a narcissist. Like she might have more narcissistic traits than the average person. There are some cluster B behaviors happening in this interaction, right? Disturbing things that I don't like to see. And that's not a right or left thing. That's just like cluster B stuff. Okay. When I first noticed that, and I know people who were onto her from the beginning, I was not. I bought in. And even after I noticed that narcissistic behavior, I continued to think, I think I was more naive then. I continued to think, well, at least she's using it for good. I want to laugh now because I think that's so naive, and I don't think that's possible. I no longer think that's possible. But back then I thought, well, some narcissists can use their narcissism for good, and that's great because maybe we need narcissists to take the good ideas and spread them to maybe you need a narcissist with high charisma and and a high focus on the self who's driven to create this huge thing that, maybe you need that, is what I thought. Sort of like the Dexter of social commentary. Like, he's a serial killer, but he uses serial killing for good. So silly. It's so ridiculous. Like, okay, she's going to use the narcissism for good, but that's really what I thought. And I appreciate a lot of what she had to say. And I used to share her stuff all the time and was very happy to see her building a platform. Around the time of leaving the Daily Wire is when I started to notice a lot more red flags. There was a lot of falsely wrapping herself in Christian victimhood when it seemed clear through all observable evidence that she was a difficult and toxic person to work with and had a pattern of toxic, volatile interactions with people and relationships. But I thought she was very much trying to manipulate Christians like myself to be, I'm a victim here of the Jews, and using that to launch herself, like her new independent platform. That's when serious alarm bells started to go off for me. And there were friends who had warned me about her earlier. And I think, like I said at the beginning, I like to take my time making up my mind about people. The Bible says to be slow to anger, and it does call us to be discerning. And I like to be slow to speak, be slow to speak and figure out what I think about something and really weigh it for a while. I actually don't want to be that person in the AB scenario who makes the quick decision. I want to take my time with it and sit on it and figure it out. And so even though I saw a bunch of these red flags, I was still like, maybe she's still, for the most part, using things for good. But I had started to also leave behind that, what I now think is a bad idea, that any cluster B person can do anything to do good. I think in the end, they always end up doing more harm than good. The harm that they do, that they sow, the division they sow, the mistrust that they sow, the darkness really that they reap, I think outweighs whatever good they did in the beginning. And I think it probably always ends that way with this personality type. That's where I've landed now. So in the past 2 weeks since Charlie Kirk was murdered, this person has been doing something I find to be completely disgusting. She has been sowing in the mind of her viewers this idea that Charlie Kirk was murdered by Israel, which doesn't even make any sense because he was one of the biggest defenders of Israel. In order for her to even come up with a motive, a possible motive for this, which, like, let's forget there being no evidence of it. There's no evidence either, but there's no motive. Even Nick Fuentes, even white nationalist groyper Nick Fuentes, who likes to blame Israel for everything, is in a video talking about how ridiculous this is, that Candace is being ridiculous, and that Charlie Kirk was one of the biggest defenders of Israel, and that it would make about as much sense as saying Israel's going to target Ben Shapiro next, I guess, right? It's absolutely absurd. And what she's doing is using one of the narcissist tactics where she is heavily implying this over and over. I'm about to show you some clips. And then when criticized for it, she steps it back and says, hold on, I never actually said that. I never actually said it. Oh yeah, you just heavily implied it. Okay. So that everybody who's bought into you and whose brains are being twisted up by you are running around all over the internet telling everyone that Israel killed Charlie Kirk. because they've been listening to you and people like you. But then when you're called to the carpet, you can't be challenged on it because, hold up, technically I never said that. I've just heavily implied it. I've just done entire hours and hours long streams about it, right? And put some of them behind a paywall. So you have to buy. I'm getting ready to show the proof, guys, any day now. Let me show you some of this. Yeah, I know. Let me counter some of these things people are saying. He openly began criticizing the genocide right before it happened. I know. That's out there for anybody to see. That's not secret knowledge. By the way, I don't use the word genocide. I have issues with the war as well. I think it's gone on too long, but I'm not going to do what the left does and misuse words incorrectly. But yes, he began openly criticizing the war. That's all out there for people to see. There's a clip that's going around that some people are using to try and say that his opinion had changed. And the funny thing is that clip is 2 years old. Let me show these back to back then, actually, before we show Candace. No, let's show Candace first. Okay. Because I want to get the other one queued up. This is a compilation put together by Nathan Livingston, also known as Milk Bar TV. And Nathan Livingstone is like a one-man army. He's very good at putting clips together and trying to help people see this if they're having trouble seeing some of the more questionable stuff that she's saying. He's done this with Andrew Tate, using Andrew Tate's own words. He's just put them together like, here's where he said this. Andrew Tate is now suing him, trying to launch to intimidate him and to intimidate other people with a defamation lawsuit. And he's got I think he has a GoFundMe trying to raise money for the legal defense for that. Andrew Tate's suing him and a bunch of other people for showing Andrew Tate's own words. But this is a compilation he put together about Candace. And he said, this is Candace showing that she's like a great investigative journalist, relying on the facts, guys. Here we go.
What I do know is we're not getting the full story because I just spiritually know that more people are involved. Okay. I just spiritually know. Okay. So I would discern that we are looking.
They also, here's something they do. I'm sure you've seen this. They pick up words that people use to caution about them and to highlight their tactics. And they will use these words. They will flip these words. It's sort of like how Justin Trudeau started calling the freedom fighters and the freedom convoy. He started calling them authoritarians while he and his government were the authoritarians. By definition, that's what they were doing. He started calling the freedom fighters, those fighting for liberty, he was calling them authoritarian. So I've noticed she's recently started using that word like, oh, she's being discerning here, guys.
That we are looking, just vibe again, two different people would be my thing. Two different people. I think the person in the maroon that's walking is different from the person that's walking up the stairs. It's a gut thing, okay? I don't know, but I know. Okay? I don't know, but I know. We don't know, but we know something made its way around the entire town and into my tips line repeatedly. It is a very clear image of Tyler Robinson, allegedly taken, I'll say allegedly for safety here. We can now plot this change, this alleged Dairy Queen stop onto our timeline. We were very accurate when we started getting really serious about looking at a timeline. I like a clean timeline. Well, there we go. 6:38 p.m. We get this confirmed photo, or I shouldn't say a confirmed photo, an alleged photo.
Yeah, and the graphic still says confirmed. A confirmed photo. I don't know. No. Well, I don't know, but I know. No. I don't know, but I know. The other thing she does that a lot of cult leaders do is she takes these short, easily digestible phrases and she repeats them like mantras, and she says them 2 or 3 times in succession, which if you go and watch the way cult leaders speak, they do that a lot. And I just think it's funny that he collected some of them there. I don't know, but I know. And then she'll repeat it with the same thing. I mean, I don't know, but I know. Do you know what I mean?
He writes, since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty die-hard MAGA. There's something here for everyone if you want to take the low-hanging fruit and think of this as left versus right? So if you're like, on the right, you're like, I need to blame the left, then it's like, whoa, the trans thing is here. But if you're on the left, you need to blame the right. Well, dad was a die-hard MAGA. It's like, it's so fed. It's just.
We've covered some of the evidence surrounding this in the last episode. I covered it. We for this to be some kind of operation. Let me just, for those of you who bought into this, I'm not convinced that you've looked at a lot of the evidence. So first of all, his parents were conservatives. Okay. They were. There's all their friends and family, their social media posts, their the friends they've had who've been on the record, like their whole, I guess is she alleging that they faked that? Is it fake that his dad was MAGA? We just got this guy to pretend to be MAGA and create this whole social media history that he's conservative and, his religion is they're Mormons and everybody know, and it's just not real. I mean, what is the intention by bringing that up? The other thing is that it is observable through the online footprint that was left by Tyler Robinson. Now, here's the thing. Tyler Robinson, it's not like the kid who tried to assassinate President Trump. That is freaking fishy. Why are none of these conspiracy theorist people doing any kind of like, let me do investigative journalism on that? That was never transparent to the public. They wanted us to believe that young person who tried to assassinate Trump had no social media footprint and that they have been unable to crack his devices. Bullshit. I want to see more investigation into that. But Tyler Robinson is not that. Tyler Robinson's social media footprint, people, all the artists online, on X and other places were going onto his social media and they were putting together all the evidence before the authorities even confirmed it. And his mom is on the record as saying that he became more political and more leftist and extremist in the past year or so, she said. But if you look at his online posts and his Discord messages and his Steam messages, it was more than a year or so. It was as early as 2019 that he started speaking like a leftist, talking about Donald Trump in these group Discord messages. So what is the allegation here? That this is a fake guy and they've somehow created these group messages are the other people in the messages, are they not real people? They are real people. His roommate, his lover is a real person. His trans roommate, that's a real thing. His trans lover. What is the allegation here? That's a weird thing about these people who push this kind of bullshit, is that they never get specific. Just like she's able to weasel out of and slip out of, well, I never actually said it was Israel, guys. She's also able, you can't really pin her down on what she's saying because I'm just asking questions, right? Yeah, well, your questions are stupid and they've been answered with the evidence. She just did a video, I saw it this morning, talking about how there was a tunnel underneath the stage and maybe the real killer tunneled and popped up out of the ground and shot Charlie Kirk from underneath the stage. I'm not joking. It keeps evolving, the insanity. It keeps evolving. Oh yeah, somebody in the chat mentioned, yeah, Tyler Robinson, we also know his disgusting porn viewing habits and that social media footprint, which is in keeping with the psychological profiles of a lot of these trans shooters. He was watching furry porn that involved possible underage characters. He was watching just all kinds of degenerate stuff that we're not going into that again. But that's out there. And again, people online dug this up before the authorities confirmed it. And there's stuff they dug up that the authorities haven't yet confirmed, which is the possibility that there were other people in his Discord, his trans gamer Discord and Steam chat groups who had advanced knowledge. There is that possibility. And On Sunday, the day of Charlie Kirk's memorial, Kash Patel came out and said, look, we are investigating every one of these, in part because of crazy people like Candace Owens and Ian Carroll. They've got all these people now are believing this stuff. He has come out and said, we're going to investigate all of it, and it's going to be very thorough. And here's what I'm expecting to see. First of all, at the beginning, they were trying to throw shade on Frank Turek. Frank Turek is a longtime personal friend of Charlie Kirk's. He's one of his mentors. He's a Christian. He does Christian apologetics. He was the guy in the white cap that was standing near Charlie. He's like a father to Charlie. He's the one that delivered a really strong gospel message at the memorial. And before people knew that was Frank, they saw in the video, they froze it and they paused it and they were like, look at this guy in the white baseball cap, dude. He does this with his hat, and then he touches his face, and maybe he was giving signals. Again, if you're going to ask questions, ask all the questions. Why does a shooter on the roof need signals when he has a $2,000 scope? He doesn't. When he has a clear line of sight, he doesn't need somebody doing hand signals. Why does it make sense that it doesn't make any sense that Frank Turek is working with some assassin to kill one of his best friends who's like a son to him, Charlie Kirk? It's absolutely vile to accuse him in that way. And that was one of the early things these grifters were pushing. And then they moved on to other things. Well, maybe the shot came from here, and maybe there were 4 people involved, and maybe there's a tunnel underneath, and it's getting crazier and crazier. I'm very glad I'm very glad Kash Patel said they're investigating everything and they're going to be very transparent. Number one, because we need to put to bed a lot of this insanity, but also because it's going to make a stronger case for the prosecution. If they choose to seek the death penalty, they want to be able to chase down all of these alternate theories and suspects and put them to bed so that it's an easier case for the prosecution and it's easier to get the death penalty if they choose to seek it. So I'm waiting to see what they put out. I do want to see an answer about the other people that were in the Discord and Steam chats and what they potentially knew, and if they knew anything in advance or not. I'm glad they're interviewing all those people, and it's something like 20 plus people that were in his little anime, porn, trans, gamer Discord and Steam group. Okay, let's continue.
So federally written, it's amazing. So chaos right here. Says to Lance, allegedly, quote, I worry about Prince. I had to leave it, referring to the rifle, in a bush where I changed outfits. Wait, changed outfits? Somebody commented, men don't say outfits. That's a woman thing.
Okay, you absolute dunce. This is your evidence? Men don't say outfit. Most men, by the way, are not assassins. Most men do not have the personality to go and kill someone. And this guy was dating, he had a boyfriend. Most gay men do say outfits, you dumbass. Are you kidding me? This is your evidence? Gay men don't say outfits. Only women do. I cannot take this person seriously. People are like, he said outfits.
Okay, yeah, that's true. I would say I changed my outfit. A man does not say, you just say you changed clothes. You would not say an outfit. Outfit is very girly. Okay, so is this AI or is this a female fed that put these messages together? We're not feeling like it's Tyler Robinson. That's for sure. I can get close to it, but there is a squad car parked right by it. Squad car. Okay, yeah, no. How many times do you call a police car a squad car? Do you want to know who calls it a squad car? Someone on the squad.
They had a friend who's used to be in the sheriff's department, a law enforcement friend, which fits the profile of someone. And also Tyler Robinson, his father took him to the range all the time. And presumably he was around, it would fit the profile that he's around people who use language like that. It's not that much of a stretch to think they would use squad car. This is a gay guy. I say gay because his boyfriend was transitioning to a woman that doesn't make him straight, to try and live as a woman. This is what's so laughable to me. They were nitpicking not just on the use of the word outfits, which by the way, there's women here who are saying I don't say outfits, but yeah, she said women always say outfits and men don't. Maybe a woman wrote this. Okay, gay guys say outfits. Also, gay guys say my love. They were nitpicking that he called his boyfriend my love. I have a gay friend who texts. We're not even in a romantic relationship. He's just a good friend of mine, and he texts me my love. Like, so what are you talking about? If you're going to use anecdotal evidence, then I'm going to use the anecdotal evidence too. That's so stupid. Let's continue. By the way, I'm going to get to these questions. I see your questions.
Well, that's how that works. So I would like more information about Lance Twiggs. Okay, I already don't like that mom received a Bachelor of Science from Stanford University in psychology. It seems to be a running theme in these Fed ops that there's always psychology somewhere in the family. Entire world is watching, and that's what's problematic. Left and right, we are realizing something more sinister happened. We're not taking the MAGA bait. The dad MAGA, he's been more MAGA than ever. One of the commenters pointed out, why would the dad suddenly be more MAGA than ever? Like, what happened recently? Like, we're in September.
He got elected. I'm sorry. This makes me so. What do you think? Do you know what? I became more MAGA than ever. Do you know when? Do you know when it happened? It's when they tried to kill President Trump. I never owned a MAGA hat before then. I never wanted to be, I voted for him in 2016, not 2016. Sorry. That's when I was still on the leftist boat. I voted for him in the one they stole, 2020. I voted for him in 2020. And then I voted for him, but I never was like, oh, MAGA trained people or whatever. I still had an aversion to that. Do you know when I got super MAGA? When they tried to kill him. Are you forgetting this, Candace? Like, why wouldn't his conservative dad get more? I now own 2 MAGA hats since that happened. It's just, this is her evidence. By the way, the people who are in this cult and listening to all this bullshit are, some of them I love. And so I'm trying to remember that and speak with more patience and grace. They are often in my comments, especially on Facebook. It's where a lot more women are than on X. And they're in my comments on Facebook and they're like, Candace offered evidence. What? And I try to pin them down. What evidence? What evidence did she offer? And there's never a response. There's never any evidence, actual evidence. Well, she said she heard from an anonymous person who said they know. Bullshit. Bullshit. You can't tell me, first of all, her opinion is not evidence, and her citing anonymous people is not evidence. And I don't even believe the stuff that she's saying, that she's pretending about Charlie, some of it. You have to trust her, bro. She doesn't know, but she knows. She has no evidence. She can't point to anything physically tangible that you can look at. Here's a text message where he said this or did this. No, but she knows it. Trust her, bro. And a lot of the stuff she has said has been proven false. Where, yes, I see your comments. We're about to get into the meeting, the Hamptons. So first, though, she's running with all of this. And she dropped it for a little bit and then she came back to it. This whole it wasn't the leftist. The thing that makes the most sense, that we have the evidence for, is that this kid was radicalized. Like a lot of the trans shooters have been radicalized. He was in a woke leftist cult. And he had the personality type. He had the cluster B personality type that was suggestible to do something this evil. And she's trying to say it's not the result of leftist brainwashing and indoctrination. It's not the most obvious thing based on his online footprint and all the available evidence. We're going to trace down every moon is made of cheese scenario. And trust me, bro, I know.
September. Like, what happened that someone would commit themselves further to Trump, more MAGA than ever? In fact, it's been kind of the opposite. People think we're occupied by Zionists. More MAGA people are going like, it seems like Trump has kind of given up on free speech, and his administration seems to be controlled by Bibi Netanyahu. So that doesn't ring true either. And then it's like, oh, over here, the trans. Neither. Left and right, we're paying attention, and we're looking up at who rules over us, and it's not a pretty picture. Just show us the footage, okay? I'm demanding it. You know why? Because I need to be able to fit things into my timeline. If that's okay with you. Why you are attacking the people who are the person, rather, who is trying to investigate it. You're not a good friend, they say.
She's the person trying to investigate it. It's not the FBI, guys. We've got Candace on the case. Again, like cult leaders. Oh, God, thank God Candace is out there. Somebody in the chat's like, she's asking the hard questions. What questions are those? What are the hard questions? Anybody who has a low character and a low, God, just how indecent you have to be to exploit the murder of someone who treated you like a friend for clicks, money, attention, fame, narcissistic supply. Anybody with a character that low could go on and spin all kinds of tales. So hard questions, I would say low questions. Let me show you something. So her conspiracy theory about this is, in order to establish a motive, which again, she has zero evidence and zero motive. So in order to establish a motive, this is essentially what she's putting forth, that Charlie, one of the loudest, most influential supporters of Israel, was secretly behind the scenes about to flip and about to come out against Israel. And so Israel, knowing this, took him out. And no word yet on, there's no evidence of that. And there's nothing to point to that shows that they did this. And there's no motive, but trust her, the motive is the secret hidden knowledge that she has. What is she selling? What is she trading on to get you to buy into this? First, that she was close friends with him. That's not what his close friends report. At one point, they were close, yes. But if you followed him, you noticed he hasn't appeared with her in 15 months, since June of 2024, last year. Over a year ago. Has not been on a stage with her. Has not been on her podcast. She has not been on his. Stopped retweeting her. I bring this up. It's interesting because in all of her insane clips, one of the things she said is that, again, she likes to cast aspersions and imply things. And I'm just suggesting and I'm just asking questions. So one of the things she said was because Bibi Netanyahu did not appear on Charlie Kirk's podcast in May when he was out here doing some interviews, and he didn't appear, that therefore that is evidence. We must conclude that what? There's a bunch, I guess, we're supposed to conclude because he didn't appear on a podcast. We're supposed to conclude that they are now enemies, or that he's like arranging for Charlie's assassination, or what are we supposed to conclude from that? Well, using her own logic, if we're going to do that, then what should we conclude when we look at the fact that he hasn't appeared with you in 15 months, that he hasn't been on your show and you haven't been on his show in 15 months, and he stopped retweeting you? And because of all of these spurious accusations she's making, one of his friends had to come out and reveal in a text message between him and Charlie, where Charlie said he was trying to help her, Candace Owens. It's unfortunate we even got to a place where that friend felt the need to do that. Because of her, to do that, to have to release that because of her. But that aligns with what I was assuming. Charlie Kirk was a sincere Christian. He was a sincere believer. And everything I have observed in the way he treated her once she started to become insane, and to push these crazy, the Jews are behind everything conspiracy theories, and Bridget McCrone is a man, and Harvey Weinstein is innocent, and all this insanity. He seemed, if you're just looking at it from the outside in, to have been treating her the way a Christian would treat a friend who goes off into Cuckooville. And I say this because I have friends who are in Cuckooville. I still have some friends who are woke leftists that I've mentioned before. I have some friends who have gone off into this crazy Jewish conspiracy theory cuckoo shit. I'm still friendly with them. I try to be. For a reason. Why do you think I haven't unfriended them? Because I'm hoping, since they're open-minded enough to stay my friend as well, and to keep that line of communication open, that I can help pull them out of that crap. Shutting them off risks pushing them even further into it. So I have no doubt that they were still friendly. She was like, I'm going to show messages that show we're still friends. And it was something totally normal and innocuous, like them sending, here's my tweet, like, you know, there's nothing that shows me they were close friends in the past 15 months. I'm going to show you a video of Charlie. Instead of people telling me without any evidence that he was about to flip on Israel, let me show you what he said 4 months ago, because I'd prefer just to listen to him. This was in May of this year when he went to Cambridge and did a debate. Let's play this first, and then I want to show you the clip that people are posting in my comments to try and somehow say he changed his mind after this. But let's start with this. This is 4 months ago.
Let me ask you, in the conflict of Israel versus Hamas, who's the good guy?
I believe both Hamas and the Israeli government are evil, but I think also that there is no justification.
Are they equally?
There is no justification for the murder and mutilation of thousands of innocent people and children.
Well, let's
futile.
Let's zero in on it.
There is no justification, Mr. Kirk, for invading hospitals, for bombing innocent populations, and dragging out a war which is damaging Israel and the West's security.
You've made that point, but
Well, it's not a point; it's a moral truth, isn't
okay,
it?
yeah. It was also a moral truth that the war started because 1,300 Jews were killed and 200 were taken hostage. And when you declare war on Israel, expect a firestorm in reaction. Let me finish. I let you talk. Israel, at its holiest day of the calendar year, besides Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, Samat Torah, the 50-year anniversary of the Six-Day War. On Shabbat, Hamas invaded Israel, deciding to go recklessly to music concerts, to homes, to kibbutzes, and taking 200 plus hostages. They knew what they were doing. In one of the most cloistered urban environments on the planet, 2 million people live in a place where it's impossible to wage war. Impossible. Where they wear civilian clothing, they violate every tenet of the Geneva Convention, and the IDF, when they do something right, they get no credit. When they do life-saving surgeries of a Gazan child, they get no credit. When they drop leaflets, they get no credit. But when they happen to bomb a place where they are operating their military from, which we now know from third-party verified sources, hundreds of Hamas military operations are in mosques, schools, and hospitals. I'm sorry, the country where they were living in relative peace on October 6th, that all of a sudden we had a war and Hamas started the war. And I don't see people that were really upset about the 2 million Germans that were killed in World War II, civilians. A tragic truth of war is that civilians die. I don't like it and you don't like it. And they brought it upon themselves. The only operation and entity to blame is the leadership of Hamas, not the Israeli government, for fighting this defensive war after they were invaded. There is a good guy and there is a bad guy. I honestly...
Isn't that the morality of a child?
Well, hold on. It's interesting you say that, because a child who knows that Israel is the good guy, Hamas is bad, has a lot more wisdom than a student like yourself at Cambridge University. Let me ask you,
Okay, that was 4 months ago at Cambridge. And let me just address this right now. You saw how passionate he was, and you heard what he said there. And somebody in the chat is saying what people have been saying to me on Facebook and on X, and said, well, he changed his mind after that. Bullshit. Bullshit. I am open to you showing me where he did, and no one's done so yet. No one. We're going to look at what he said since then. A month ago, I've got the conversation with Megyn Kelly where he continued to say he is a strong defender of Israel and he wants Israel to win this war. He wants to see Western civilization preserved. He continues to say this a month ago with Megyn Kelly. We're going to watch that too. Now, in that conversation, is it nuanced? Is it hard for you to hear if you want everything to be A or B? Yes, it is. Because in that conversation, he also talks about the pressure he was getting from people to not platform some who were more like anti-Israel, like Tucker Carlson. And we knew he was getting that pressure. He publicly talked about it on Megyn Kelly's show and also on X. And we saw that happening. I was one of the people who thought it was a bad idea to put Tucker on that stage. This isn't any hidden secret. But on Megyn Kelly, he talks about getting texts from friends and people with influence who were critical of that and the pressure he was getting and how it was going to backfire and they needed to back off and let people have, like he and Megyn Kelly were both saying, we are two of the staunchest defenders of Israel. And yet here are some criticisms. You're losing young people. The war's gone on too long. You need to have a press secretary who's addressing things and addressing all the propaganda that's being put out by Hamas. Like they had criticisms. Yes, they did. But bullshit, he changed his position. That Cambridge video is 4 months ago. Do you want me to show you the video people are being swindled by and sharing with no context in my comments? Because you maybe have been swindled by this and you maybe have shared it. This clip is all over. This just happens to be on some Spanish channel that someone dropped this one in. Don't worry, it's in English, but it's got Spanish subtitles. So they're going, oh no, that 4-month video that you just showed me from Cambridge, that was 4 months ago. Well, he changed his mind later. And I go, really? Can you show me where? So that I know what we're talking about. Maybe I didn't see something. Share it with me so we all know we're looking at the same thing. And inevitably, this is what they share with me. A clip from his appearance on the PBD podcast in October of 2023. That's 2 years ago. They're sharing a 2-year-old clip of his initial thoughts after October 7th. They're sharing a 2-year-old clip to say that this 4-month-old clip that he went back in time and changed his mind. Now, I understand there's misunderstanding there and they're too quick to follow these grifters who are putting this stuff out and they're like, they don't realize it's a 2-year-old clip. You can go and watch the whole video. I've got the link for you on PBD. It's from October of 2023. This is not after the 4-month-old clip I just showed you. Yes, I get angry about this because people with influence are lying and they are trying to lead you like a Pied Piper into the darkness where you're just spinning all this bullshit and you're doing it on the grave of a really decent man, a very good man, a very admirable man. It makes me want to vomit.
For the way I say this, they're going to try to ethnically cleanse Gaza. I mean, that's, and I don't use that term. I've been to Israel many times. The whole country's a fortress. When I first heard this story, I still had the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that's an IDF soldier, right? The whole country is surveilled. And so let me just kind of go through this. We don't talk about Israeli politics very often, and most Americans don't know this. The last 9 months, Israel was on the brink of civil war. It's not an exaggeration. This judicial stuff, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets because Bibi Netanyahu was basically redefining the Israeli constitution. That's not an exaggeration, right? He said the judicial branch has too much power. There were protests planned this week against Netanyahu, where they anticipated tens of thousands of people to take to the streets. That's all gone, Patrick. Netanyahu now has an emergency government and a mandate to lead. I'm not willing to go so far that saying that Netanyahu knew or there was intelligence here, but I think some questions need to be asked. The essence is this. This is the closest thing to the Holocaust any of us have lived through. But the fact is now Bibi and the Israeli hard right government has a mandate. I gotta be careful the way I say this. They're gonna try to ethnically cleanse Gaza. I mean, that's, and I don't use that term lightly, okay? They're talking about basically removing 2.5 million people from there.
Okay. So that's the clip that people are sharing to say that the Cambridge clip that I just show you, where he's passionately, clearly still on the side of Israel, that he changed his mind and here's the evidence. Oh, wait a minute. The evidence is from 2 years ago. He would have had to travel back in time for his opinion to have changed. That is from an October 2023 broadcast of PBD. These conspiracy theorists were also saying that PBD scrubbed the clip and he scrubbed that episode. No, he didn't. I went and found it. You can watch the whole thing in context where he said that 2 years ago. So actually, if he changed his mind, if you want to allege that he changed his mind, well, he changed it to what you see in Cambridge. But I think rather the truth is more nuanced, that he is a person who supported Israel and wants, as he says in the Megyn Kelly clip we're about to watch, wants Israel to win, and also has criticisms, and is also a person who exercises caution. Yeah, exactly, D-Sub. Most won't watch the entire thing, but they'll keep on lying. They'll keep on lying. Pisses me off. Okay, so then people are like, well, on Megyn Kelly, he changed his mind. He changed his mind. No, he didn't. I watched the episode. Did you watch it? The thing you're talking about? This is from a month ago on Megyn Kelly. We're going to watch it. You guys are the ones who keep linking it without having seen it. We're going to see what it says. This is, they were talking about Sydney Sweeney at the beginning. And then they get into talking about how, which this is so true, because the left has called everybody a Nazi incorrectly and drained all of the meaning out of that word. They call Trump a Nazi incorrectly. They call me a Nazi incorrectly. They call Charlie Kirk a Nazi. They call Sydney Sweeney a Nazi incorrectly. Because they've done that, they're talking about how hard it is to confront actual anti-Semitism and actual Nazis when you see them, because nobody believes that word means anything anymore because of the left. Okay. So that's how they start off talking about it. And then they get into their criticisms of people, yes, who were pressuring him and pressuring them not to have a nuanced view on the war.
Because I do feel like some of us have earned the right to have some credibility on the subject of Israel and don't want to be called those names when we have some mild pushback on some of the overreaches, whether it's, you know, whether they're winning or losing the propaganda war right now. And my contention is they've begun to lose it. And I realize it's propaganda coming at us from Hamas, but their numbers have turned here in America. They've turned, not so much with Republicans, a little bit with Republicans, but completely with the Democrat Party and with independents. They have shifted mightily from at least double digits highs to single digit lows now with when it comes to approval. And also with respect to, you and I speculated about this at the Turning Point event, whether the possibility of Jeffrey Epstein possibly being a Mossad agent or asset or affiliated with, that's been turned around on me too, to you must be anti-Semitic. What the hell? That's such bullshit. The same people who say you can criticize Israel, that's fine. We won't call you anti-Semitic if you criticize Israel. Now turn around immediately and say you're anti-Semitic for even raising that. I completely reject that. And I raise this as a pushback against my friends on that particular strain of the aisle to watch it, because you don't want to alienate people who are openly your friends by going nuts in your crackdowns on mild pushback on anything related to Israel.
Let me pause it right there. We'll come right back to this point. Let's see, we're at 102. I'm going to back it up just a little bit more because I apparently didn't start in the right place. Before she starts with the criticism and the nuance about the pressure she doesn't like, she starts off by reiterating her support of Israel and what she thinks. So it cannot be missed. And that is relevant to this conversation. So let me rewind it just a little bit. I didn't want to include all the Sydney Sweeney stuff, but let me see where this is.
Of you guys.
Yep.
And
sit down.
That again, totally sit down. Like, you guys are the problem. Your ancestors owned slaves. Like, enough. And or even saying that this became a major issue. And so, look.
By the way, we have some of that, Charlie. Liberals who are hopelessly obsessing over the Euphoria actors. That's Sydney Sweeney. She was in that show.
About the Sydney Sweeney ad. Like, whether or not Hakeem Jeffries introduces emotion, like that's the threshold of whether or not this is a big deal or not.
Yeah.
So sorry, we actually understand culture, guys. And again, I want to just go back to one part though. In that ABC News clip, do you know that the first couple of words were so disgusting? The blonde hair, blue-eyed actress, as if like they're trying to set you up that like, oh, this is like pseudo. Do you notice that in the copy script? I've heard that. I've heard that clip multiple times. I didn't catch it till now, where someone put that in their teleprompter. Someone wrote that down for them to read. The blonde hair, blue-eyed actress. Okay, what is the relevance of that exactly? So if it was, a Hispanic person that says I had good genes, you wouldn't. Okay, fine. But no, because of next thing, I got a busy day. But they look at that and they immediately think Third Reich, Hitler.
There we go.
Not only are these dark people, they are so. They're
Okay, so this is where I should have started it. Here's what he's talking about. The leftists look at Sydney Sweeney and they immediately think Third Reich and Nazi and all the crazy stuff they think. And they've basically misused that word so much. They call everybody a fascist. They call everyone a Nazi, to the point that you can't accurately identify. It doesn't carry as much weight to accurately identify an actual Nazi anymore, because you've misused the word so much that now actual neo-Nazis are like, so what? You call everybody that. So what? Am I not? And he's about to say that. And then we're going to get into where I should have started it, about the question about support for Israel.
Worldview that they process everything through, the matrix that they put all their information through, is so broken and dangerous, Megan, that this is why I'm so glad Trump won, is that you can't have people running your society that immediately think everything goes back to Hitler and everything goes back to Nazism. It's destructive, it's wrong, and then it also just they don't care about this, but it cheapens the word Nazi if we ever need to use it.
Yes,
Megan, right?
I know.
If we ever see, like, for example, there's some of this repulsive Jew hate that we see sometimes on social media. I hate it, you hate it, but then if you and I want to call that person a Nazi, it doesn't mean anything. It has no currency.
He talked about this repulsive Jew hate to the end. There's a clip I'll show you of somebody in the audience asking a question about people who spread anti-Semitism and Jew hatred online, and this person mentioned Candace Owens as an example. Now, that doesn't mean his response was about Candace specifically, but in his response, when he talked about Jew hate and anti-Semitism, he said it's demonic and it's from the pit of hell. He was very clear. Don't bullshit me and tell me that he changed his mind. Oh, this was a month ago. Don't bullshit me with a 2-year-old clip or whatever your old ass clip is that you haven't even put in context or watched in context. You didn't even watch this in context. Now she's about to ask him about Israel and some of their nuanced opinions on how long the war's gone on, how they're losing young people, and how counterproductive it is for some of the trigger-happy people to call any criticism of Israel anti-Semitism. Because again, why? For the same reason it's wrong for the woke left to do it. Because you muddy the meaning of that word and you render it useless. And it backfires. I agree with both of them on this. Let's continue.
Because they're like, oh, am I a Nazi like Sydney Sweeney? And boom, there's no zing. What they have done is they have created yet another subcategory. Racist means nothing anymore, and now Nazi means nothing anymore. When people call me a Nazi, and then they call me it's just, so they have diluted the potency of the word that we can no longer use it, rarely where appropriate. And no, these are sick people, and I don't put that lightly. If you think that ad has anything to do with eugenics or the Third Reich, there's something deeply wrong and troubling with you.
They've done it with misogyny. They've done it with the word bigot. If you say anything about the trans community too. I mean, there's a whole list of words that used to be powerful and they've ruined them. They've taken away their sting because they've used them so indiscriminately. All right. Now you raise the Jewish issue, and this is actually really important to me. I really want to discuss this with you because you and I are both supporters of Israel and have defended Israel.
Boom. Okay. Gosh. If this were the going the other way, wouldn't Candace Owens clip this right here and be like, there it is, blah, 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 enough, case closed. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let you listen to the whole thing. But there he said it clearly. You and I are both supporters of Israel. Yes, this was a month ago. Quit lying to me.
Since the beginning of this conflict, and spoken out about the anti-Semitism that has erupted on these college campuses many times. And something's happening, though, with this whole debate that is really bothering me. And I wonder if you're feeling it too. So I mean, I genuinely believe you'd be hard pressed to find somebody in the public eye who's been as outspoken a defender of not every move Israel's taken in the war, but of Israel's right to defend itself and of the just backward awfulness that we've been seeing on college campuses and the backlash against American Jews than yours truly. I mean, I have been at the pointy end of the spear on this, and
I completely agree with that.
And it was all heartfelt, and it remains heartfelt.
Yes.
However, my contention here is that some in the pro-Israel camp are so knee-jerk about calling you anti-Semitic or getting deeply offended if you say anything that doesn't align with their narrative, that it undermines their own cause. And I have to tell you, I find it very irritating because I do feel like some of us have earned the right to have some credibility on the subject of Israel and don't want to be called those names when we have some mild pushback on some of the overreaches, whether it's, whether they're winning or losing the propaganda war right now. And my contention is they've begun to lose it. And I realize it's propaganda coming at us from Hamas, but their numbers have turned here in America. They've turned, not so much with Republicans, a little bit with Republicans, but completely with the Democrat Party and with independents. They have shifted mightily from at least double digits highs to single digit lows now with when it comes to approval. And also with respect to, you and I speculated about this at the Turning Point event, whether the possibility of Jeffrey Epstein possibly being a Mossad agent or asset or affiliated with, that's been turned around on me too, to you must be anti-Semitic. What the hell? That's such bullshit. The same people who say you can criticize Israel, that's fine. We won't call you anti-Semitic if you criticize Israel. Now turn around immediately and say you're anti-Semitic for even raising that. I completely reject that. And I raise this as a pushback against my friends on that particular strain of the aisle to watch it, because you don't want to alienate people who are openly your friends by going nuts in your crackdowns on mild pushback on anything related to Israel. Now you take it.
I'm so glad you brought this up, and I would second that, Megan. I think I have a bulletproof resume showing my defense of Israel, both on campus, on social media, to great, let's just say mockery and scorn at times where
So there he is again. This is a month ago. I have a great resume of defending Israel, both on campus and online. This is a month ago. And again, at the beginning of this, you and I are both staunch supporters of Israel. Yes, he says. Stop lying to me and putting words in a dead man's mouth and putting ideas in a dead man's head that he did not hold, and telling me to take you at your special magic knowledge bullshit, trust me, bro, word. Take you at your word. No, I would rather listen to him. We'll continue about his criticisms.
because I believe it, right? I believe in the scriptural land rights given to Israel. I believe in fulfillment of prophecy. And again, I'm not a theologian, but I'm a Christian. My life was changed in Israel. The spiritual energy is so amazing there. I want them to win. I've said that repeatedly.
Same.
And he still says that repeatedly in this interview. He wants Israel to win. I don't know how you guys are getting this twisted, that he was like secretly about to be like, full jab, like free Palestine. I'm going to support Hamas now. Like, what are you talking about? You are just as much of a liar as the woke left. You are just as much dancing on the grave of a martyr and using him to sell your kooky conspiracy theories. You know who else is going with the Israel did it absurdity? Antifa. Does that tell you anything? Antifa, domestic terrorist organization, now declared finally a domestic terrorist organization. They're also going this route that, it was secretly, Israel did it. Yeah, it looks like on the surface they didn't have motive because he was one of the biggest defenders of Israel. And even a month ago was telling you he's one of the biggest defenders of Israel, but really secretly he wasn't. And then therefore there's motive and evidence. What evidence? Trust us, bro.
However, Megan, you're hitting on something very potent and important. Now, let me first say, I don't want to judge an entire group because there's been many people in the pro-Israel world that have been very sweet, very kind, very nuanced, very Charlie. You're with us. You don't have to agree all the time. However, and I will say this, the behavior by a lot, both privately and publicly, are pushing people like you and me away. Not like we're going to be pro-Hamas, not like we're going to, but we're like, honestly, the way you are treating me is so repulsive. I have text messages, Megan, calling me an anti-Semite. I am learning biblical Hebrew and writing a book on the Shabbat. I honor the Shabbat, literally the Jewish.
Yes. Let me interrupt with this. Yes. He's seeming very honest with his conflicts in the reality situation. Yes. He was very honest and open about it. And he was that way about everything. He's one of the few with a platform as big as his and as much influence as he had, who I think is a very sincere, good person. He is very honest. And this was all out here in the open for you to see. There's no like, oh, let me connect the dots and it forms a Star of David. Like he was open even 2 years ago about different conflicting thoughts he had. But has he wavered from supporting Israel? No. And I do not take the word of internet personalities any more than I take the word of Fauci when he says, I am science, trust the science. Like, no, I'm going to listen. I'm going to go to the source. I'm going to listen to Charlie and what he said unless you show me evidence of him saying the opposite after this or in secret. He didn't. Nobody's producing that. Oh, but Candace keeps stringing you along because maybe if you pay for this other behind the paywall video access, maybe then she's going to drop some receipts. When? Never, because there are none. And they weren't even close anymore by all available evidence. According to all, that's the conclusion I am drawing.
Sabbath. I visit Israel and fight for it. And there's another article out in the Times of Israel today. I could read it on air. I was just reading before I got on. Charlie, what are you doing? Like, what am I doing? I'm sorry. Like, let's just take a step back here. Like, I'm an American citizen. Yes, I want Israel to win. Yes, I'm a Christian. But like some of the mess, and you've seen how I've been treated, Megan, by some.
Yes, I want Israel to win. He says again. How many times does he reiterate that in this interview from a month ago? And now let's hear his criticism of the people putting pressure on him about who he's associating with. Yes, let's hear it. I want to hear it. He's been very open about it. That does not mean he was like, oh, and now I changed. Did he say I've changed my opinion? No, he didn't.
Some, not all, by some.
No, it's very irritating. It's been so unfair. They were coming after you after Turning Point for, among other things, that you had Dave Smith there. Dave Smith is allowed to criticize Israel. You had both sides. The Israeli side was overrepresented.
Though. No, you're not allowed to. It's even worse than that. Again, I just want to repeat for the fifth time. I love Israel. I want Israel to win. But my moral character is now being put into question, Megan. Not my decisions. Not like, hey, are you doing this? Is it smart or is it dumb? But no, I am a bad person if I do this. And I could go. I mean, you saw it, Megan. It was trending on Twitter, thousands of tweets and text messages. And if I were to be charitable and generous, I will say the people that are attacking me are in a hyper paranoid state because they're at war, and war tends to make things black and white, and you're a hammer looking for a nail. So I'm trying to be charitable, Megan. Literally, I'm trying to cut as much slack as I can, right? Like, okay, what would it be like if all of a sudden I'm starting to see a pattern of behavior similar to what my grandparents saw in 1930s Germany online? How would I behave? So that's like my charitable kind of overcompensation spirit.
I love, by the way, that he is like this. This again is why I'm like, this is a sincere Christian. He is trying, even though he's annoyed and these people are putting undue pressure on him, and based on how he's characterizing it, some of them calling him anti-Semitic for associating with. I didn't like that he put Tucker Carlson on that stage either, but to call him anti-Semitic, that's crazy. That's bullshit. And anybody that called him that in a text message, I think needs to check themselves. But I love that even in that moment, he is gracious and he's trying to put himself in their shoes and be like, what might lead them to behave that way? Like, he's trying to be charitable even in that moment. This is a very decent man.
At the same time, I'm like, but it's not defensible to be dumb, right?
Yeah.
So,
and it's offensive. It's offensive to those of us who have been out there defending them in many instances against critics on our own side. And now you have a couple of comments like, well, what about this? Well, has it gone on too long? Like, is it time to wrap it up? And the thing about Epstein is just so bizarre. I don't know who he was an agent for. It might have been Israel or an asset, or it might have been nobody, but we're allowed to speculate about that. It's there's some rule. You can't go there when it comes to Israel.
Well, you and I believe that we're Americans and Americans first, period. End of story. We are citizens of this nation, okay?
That's right.
Israel, we have funded, we have supported, and they're up against a sea of Islamic totalitarianism, and we should be cheering for them, right? Because they're up against barbarians and monsters, and we want them to win. However, here is Megyn Kelly and Charlie Kirk combined, probably 30 million social media followers, like pretty, right? And you and I have been holding this down, and you probably get the negative, oh, you're just shilling for Israel, whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do what's right regardless of the feedback, right? But then all of a sudden, like, I host a person that I moderate the debate of, mind you, right? And I give equal time to Josh Hammer, equal time to a pro-Israel advocate, and my moral character is being put into question. And so I think it's a hyper paranoid, like, we're just going to try to, we're going to just stamp out everything type of practice. But it goes to the point where, if, for example, if I have less ability sometimes online to criticize the Israeli government without backlash than actual Israelis do. And that's really, really weird, isn't it, Megyn? That's not so right.
Wrong-headed. I'll tell you this, for me, so I got some blowback after saying Mossad possibilities with Epstein, a comment behind which I stand. I mean, I've of course reported what Alan Dershowitz has said as his lawyer. He says, I think he would have told me. He didn't say he had any of those connections. I hear all that. That doesn't mean it's not true. I think all these things should be explored. It's one of the many things that should be explored around Epstein. But saying that.
Yes, it should be explored. And not just Mossad, but possibly CIA and other 3-letter agencies in the US connections. Like, it should all be explored. And this is one of the things where, let me give you a good example of someone who I don't think is cultish. Trump. I'll put this back up, but give me 1 second. Trump, the leftists called Trump a cult leader a lot. And okay, I'll hear you out, make your case on that. But I generally disagree. He does not encourage his audience or the people who voted for him. He does not encourage the people who voted for him to continually and progressively transgress their normal, rational behavior. He does the opposite. I know the leftists don't know anything that happened and they're divorced from reality and from facts, but on January 6th, he told people to stand back. He told people to be peaceful. He did not tell people to storm the Capitol. Like, the stuff that they believe, the falsehoods that they believe, it's cult-like. It's insanity to believe things that are not based in fact. For it to persist this long, right? But Trump does not encourage the people who voted for him to continually and progressively transgress and to escalate transgressions of their baseline behavior. And when he makes a bad call, as he did with Epstein, I think it's a betrayal of Trump's to tell us not to care about it. Of course we care about it. Not just, I don't care about it because he campaigned on it, although he did. That was one of the things he campaigned on. That's not why I care about it. I cared about it before he was running again. Like, I would like to see these very powerful child sex rings and blackmail rings. I would like to see them exposed, and I would like to see more of the people that were involved in this unmasked. I would like to see accountability and responsibility. And so here's what happened when he suddenly changed course and said, why do you care about this? Nobody cares about Epstein. What happened? The people who voted for him pushed back. And I hope we continue to push back and said, no, we do care about this and we do want answers. And we're going to keep the pressure on, right? That's not a cult. That's not a cult. It's the opposite. So that's someone who gets accused of being cult-like that I completely disagree with. I'll hear you out. Maybe you'll make an argument I haven't heard before, but I don't consider him to be like that. I don't consider him to be like a Candace, for example. Let's continue with this. I want you to hear the whole thing. I don't want anybody to be like, oh, you didn't play the whole thing. I want to hear all of, not once they get off this topic, but let's hear the rest of this topic.
And also saying he might be a U.S. asset, et cetera, doesn't make you anti-Semitic. That's fucking crazy. And then we get to last week, I go on Piers Morgan, right? So I go on Piers Morgan last week, and I don't talk about Israel a lot in this show. I just like covering the day-to-day of a conflict like this is not my thing. It's not what we do here at the Megyn Kelly Show. We haven't done it for Ukraine. We haven't done it for Israel. We haven't done it for a lot of conflicts, but we'll talk about it when big things happen. So Piers talks about it a lot. Piers asked me, it was a very interesting kind of culture study. So he asked me about the photos of the starving children out of Gaza. And I said a couple of things, both of which got a fair amount of pickup. All right. So first, this is what I said about the photos. Listen to SOT 10. Well, I'm always reluctant to put too much stock in the images coming out of Gaza, that phrase, because they're manipulated and they're masters of propaganda and they're fine having their own children starve just as long as they can put them on camera and show them off to the world. That's Hamas. And frankly, it's a lot of Palestinians. So I'm very skeptical of taking those images at face value and saying it's Israel's fault. Okay, so that clip gets circulated.
I'm with you on that.
A million times by my Israeli friends and my Jewish friends online. Like, go Megyn. Yeah. Okay, great. Cool. Yeah, she's right on. Look at her, speak truth to Piers. And then Piers released as a separate clip my follow-up to that comment. Okay. And here's that.
You're not allowed any nuance, Megyn. It's only tribalism.
No, that's right. So here's SOT 11. Israel, whether it realizes it or not, has made itself the villain of the world in letting this thing go on so long. They have lost support amongst their dearest friends. And even the entire Democrat Party here in the United States has turned against them, and they're losing Republicans by the day here in America, which is their most important ally. So whether the fight continues to be just or not is almost irrelevant. As Trump said when he was running this time last year, not yet elected, time to wrap it up. And that's how I feel too. And I've given Israel a long berth. I fully understand, as an American who was attacked on 9/11, my country was that, when you attack the United States and you kill thousands of our citizens, and Israel was in this position on 10/7, it's fine to respond, and it doesn't have to be proportionate. Whoever said it has to be proportionate. But what Israel's doing now is losing its standing with the rest of the world. It's starting to lose too, even with its closest friends, its moral reputation, its moral high ground. And as Trump said a year ago, time to wrap it up. Cue
well said.
The 25 text messages from people I know, like friends who are pro-Israel, like, I'm so sad that you've left us. I'm so sad let's debate it. Many Jewish advocates saying, let me come on your show and we'll debate. There's nothing to debate. I'm on Israel's side. Just stop. Me observing
I totally agree.
that you're...
See this? They're both commiserating on being in a similar position of being staunchly on Israel's side, wanting Israel to win, as he said over and over. This is from a month ago. And they're complaining about something they have in common, which is any kind of nuance is being met with some, not all. He takes great pains to clarify it's not all of his Jewish or Zionist friends, but a portion of them who are overreacting, who are being very tribal, and who are saying any nuance is anti-Semitism, which is crazy. And I agree, that's absolutely crazy. And he and Megyn are commiserating on this. And what do they do at the end of this conversation? He again, for like the fourth or fifth time, says, I want Israel to win. Let's be clear. Here, let's play it out.
Losing the propaganda war, and that this has gone on for about 2 years now. And look, I pulled the stats: support for Israel's military action in Gaza by party ID. GOP in June of 2024, 76%. Now 71%, so they lost 5%. Dems in October of 2023, 36%. Now it's at 8%. Independents, October 2023, it was 47%. Now it's 25%. You go under 35, you have almost zero support across the United States, your closest ally. I see what's happening, and it's my job to comment honestly on it. But I am
Totally.
sick of being lectured on like, you have to see it exactly as we see it and support everything, or you're against us.
So this is so important, Megan. And again, I don't want you cannot say everyone in the pro-Israel, and I don't say it, acts that way. But I got
Agreed.
texts about you, Megan, saying, why is Megan like doing the bidding of Hamas? I was like, what are you talking about? Megan's the best. Like what? Like, she's amazing. And I said, why are you texting me about Megan? And I at that point, and so this is what they don't understand. You and I, Megan, and Tucker is in the same category, and they've tried to go after Tucker.
Yeah.
Is that and the more you attack our moral character, the more we're going to double down in a direction, because 100%. Screw you, I don't do it that way. Okay.
Right.
Like when tell me I'm wrong. Cool. Tell me if I got my facts wrong. By the way, on the Epstein thing, Naftali Bennett says he wasn't an Epstein agent. We have to be pursuers of truth. They've denied it. Fine. Let's keep digging. Okay. Fine. But the thing that I think is being lost is like, on some part of the population, you can scold them into silence, right? But if I have any deviation of a purity test, any deviation whatsoever, such as hosting a focus group, right, Megan, with a bunch of our students that went viral, having Dave Smith or Tucker at my event, it is all of a sudden, oh, Charlie is he's no longer with us and all that. So wait a second, what do you mean? What does with us mean exactly, right?
By the way, this is tribalism in general. This also happens when, like I do, I criticize woke right ideology, or I criticize the people he mentioned earlier who are spreading virulent Jew hate online. And then immediately I'm told, why are you no longer with us? No enemies to the right. You're not allowed to punch right. You know, all these bullshit rules. Like, no, sorry. I'm going to criticize evil when I see it. That's my allegiance is to God first and foremost. It's not to whatever, this person claims today is their label. They're technically, they say they're on the right. Yeah. Okay. If they're pushing fascism and Nazism, like actually pushing that stuff, they're just as evil as the woke left to me in terms of weight of immorality. I'm still going to call that out. Right. So this is tribalism in general that he's talking about right here. In my opinion, it's a problem with tribalism in general.
I'm an American. Okay. Like I represent this country, and I don't even understand that paradigm. But Megan, I think you would agree with this. I want to make sure we really zero in on this. Personality types like you, myself, and Tucker, the more that you guys privately and publicly call our character into question, which is not isolated, right? Megan, it would be one thing if it was one text or two text. It is dozens of texts.
Yes.
Then we start to say, hold the boat here. And to be fair, some of my really good Jewish friends are like, that's not all of us. It's all, but these are leaders too, though, right? These are stakeholders, right? And so, look, I'm afraid because, again, I want civilization to win. I want the West to win. I don't want the Islamo-fascist barbarians to storm the gates of Jerusalem. I want the holy sites protected. I believe in the Holy Land. I love that Jesus walked on water there and rose from the dead and preached in the Mount of Beatitudes. Like I feel the connection to Israel, but at the same time, simultaneously, when the hostile reaction is that now Megan and Charlie are enemies,
right?
Boy, I'll tell you, like you're not gonna, I wouldn't say lose, but you will weaken and just basically deflate two of your strongest advocates if that continues.
Right. And
deflate, that's a great way of putting it. You will deflate and demoralize. I am gonna stop it there. They don't say anything that contradicts what they've said. It's more of the same commiserating about this. As you heard in that clip, this was a month ago, continues. They both say strong advocate for Israel. He even closes his comments there with, I want them to win again. He said that several times throughout. So people who are telling you that he changed his mind after the Cambridge clip 4 months ago, or after this clip a month ago, need to show you concrete evidence of that, or shut up. Or I guess not, free speech. They can say whatever crazy kooky shit they want. I'm just telling you, I think you should be a little more discerning. If you think of yourself as a skeptical person who asks questions, here's the identity buy-in that Candace is doing, by the way. To go way back to the beginning when we talked about how cults do an identity buy-in and they offer you an A-B choice and you're in the A group, right? Because the A group's going to buy what they're selling, whatever the A group is. Here's her identity buy-in. If I were to try and quickly summarize it, her identity buy-in and a lot of Ian Carroll's, a lot of these conspiracy theorists, wackadoodles, it's, I'm a person who asks questions and I can't get fooled. Like that's the idea. Hey, you're a person who asks the hard questions, right? You want to get to the truth, right? You don't want to be fooled like the mainstream media fools people. Well, come along on my 12-part series of, behind a paywall. And one day I'm going to show you the evidence that I never actually put forward and I'm going to keep moving what the conspiracy is and the goalposts. And if you try to pin me down and say, hey, you said Israel killed Charlie. Are you ever going to provide evidence of that? Well, I didn't technically say it. I heavily implied it over a 3-part series. You're always moving and slipping around and never offering anything concrete ever. But what's the identity buy-in there? I'm a person who asks hard questions and I don't want to be fooled. Okay, that with that identity buy-in, she's getting you to buy into everything she wants to fool you on forever. She's the person who's going to get to the truth. How many times does she characterize? You know that Bible verse about like, don't praise yourself, let praise come from another person's lips. Narcissists are incapable of abiding by that verse. Narcissists have to tell you how great they are. They're the best investigator who ever. I'm the only one. They're telling you, I'm the only one trying to get to the truth. That's what she said. They didn't invite her to speak at the funeral at Charlie's memorial. At first, she tried to pretend. If you saw the video, if you guys watch her, I'm not going to go pull every clip, but go and validate this. Go and watch it. She did a whole thing about how, well, they didn't invite me to speak because only Trump and JD Vance and Tucker Carlson are speaking. So it's only those 3 speaking. No, it wasn't. There were like 30 people on that stage, honey. They didn't invite you to speak. It's my best guess, based on everything I've observed over the past 15 months. They didn't invite you to speak because you weren't close anymore. And because ever since he died, you've been pushing these insane, you've been grandstanding on top of his grave and grave dancing and exploiting his death to push these insane conspiracy theories and then brag about how many views you got behind the paywall and the biggest stream ever and all this stuff. While you push this incendiary crap. It's just as disrespectful and indecent as what the left has been doing about him, in my opinion. And it got so bad that people who are in her cult and listen to all this crap and are on a drip feed and are just her little flying monkeys out there spreading all this stuff with no evidence again. Or if you ask them for evidence, they give you a 2-year-old clip that doesn't contradict the 4-month-old clip, or it didn't come after the 4-month-old clip. These people, one of them said to me, well, hey, in her stream today, Candace said that if Erica tells her to stop, then she'll stop. I just had to pause on that. The fact that she said that, and then I went and found it. I found where she said that. If Erica, when she said that, it's after it had gotten so bad that Charlie's pastor had come forward on behalf of the family and issued a statement, that Charlie's actual close friends and his executive producer had come forward, that mutual friends of Charlie's and Candace's had come forward. And this had gotten so out of hand because of this one narcissistic sociopath who needs attention and made this all about her. About her insane conspiracy theories to her audience, has no respect for this man who treated her like a friend until the end. It got so bad that all of these people close to him had to interrupt their grief to address this lunatic. Here's the thing with a narcissist. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. All they want's the attention. If you ignore them, they're like, oh, that's just evidence I'm right. Why they just ignore me? They're not going to give you the answer. I'm right. That's the evidence I'm right. They ignored me. If you address them, wow, they're addressing me. I guess there must be some truth in this, huh? They're addressing me. I guess they're obsessed with me, right? I guess there's some truth in this, right? They did this with Bibi Netanyahu. They were like, he better come forward and address whether Israel killed Charlie Kirk. And then he made a statement. This video statement, and I saw Jake Shields and these other anti-Semites sharing it and saying, wow, I guess there's some truth in this, that Netanyahu felt it was so important to address it, right? I guess there's some truth in it because he addressed it. Yeah, and if you don't address it, you're evading. That's how narcissists operate. You can't win with them. It doesn't matter what you do. And all of these people close to Charlie, including his pastor, had come out and made statements. I'm going to show you these. And she still was like, I will not stop unless Erica comes forward and tells me to stop. She just wants that. Yeah, maybe Erica was getting ready to bury her husband, you absolute filthy ghoul who needs attention. It's so repulsive to me. It's so repulsive. And now that Erica is they announced she's going to be on this podcast and she's going to address all these questions now that the memorial service happened. And now they're saying they're doing exactly what they did with BB. They're posting all this stuff about, ooh, weird that she's going to do this and answer these questions. There must be something there. How bizarre, one of them says. How bizarre. You forced her to. I can't say what the right answer is. You can't win with these types, with narcissistic sociopaths. You can't. I mean, I don't know. God bless her having to deal with this. At this time, especially in grief. And it's so revolting. Let me show you this. This is the statement from Charlie's pastor. This was before the memorial service. Rob McCoy, of course, he spoke there. Charlie Kirk was my friend, and I was his pastor. I want to simply say this regarding Candace Owens. Charlie Kirk was a friend to Candace and never publicly spoke poorly of her, though he disagreed with her. That is such a Christian thing to do, by the way. He never publicly spoke poorly of her, though he disagreed with her. He never operated nor entertained gossip or innuendo concerning Candace. Think about what she's been doing. Think about, especially if you're a Christian, I've had some Christians who have bought into her bullshit. Think about what the Bible says about people who spread gossip and innuendo, like she's been doing, dancing on his grave with gossip. He never entertained gossip or innuendo concerning Candace. My only comment I offer regarding Candace is this. I only wish at this tragic time of mourning that she would be the friend to Charlie that he was to her. He would never have treated Candace or her family in such a way had God forbid this tragedy been hers. And then he quotes Proverbs 17:17, and he says, a friend loves at all times. That's a plea from his pastor, his friend, his mentor, his father figure. You would think for a decent person this would be enough. But no, not a decent person. So then she pivoted for a brief time away from Israel killed Charlie Kirk to, she pivoted to, but hey, never said it, just heavily implied it over hours, right? Then she pivoted to, okay, well, I've now learned about a secret meeting that happened in the Hamptons. And the long and short of it is, she says that Bill Ackman and other Jewish donors planned, and she calls it an intervention. She calls it an intervention with Charlie Kirk in the Hamptons, and that all these people there were there to confront him about the fact that he was about to secretly turn on Israel from that interview you saw a month ago where he's still supporting Israel vocally, as he always has, that he's about to secretly, and by the way, does she ever, you notice how they lie about a lie? They pretend the previous lie has already been proven. So she's now pretending that that's a proven that he was about to change his mind on Israel, which he never proved. And now she's saying, and then there's this big intervention that Bill Ackman plans, and they all bully him and try to pressure him about Israel. Okay, well, all the people who, keep in mind, Charlie didn't tell her about this thing in the Hamptons. How do we know? Because she would have released the text. And she doesn't say so, right? This is her imagination. Okay, you're supposed to trust her on this. So then his executive producer and one of his close friends had to come out, and a whole thread of people who were actually there had to come out. And by the way, in her lies about this Hamptons conference, symposium, meeting, whatever you want to call it, in her lie about it and saying it was an intervention about Israel, which is not true, she neglected to tell you that Charlie Kirk himself planned it with Bill Ackman. Like, he planned this. She neglected to tell you because she wasn't there. Nobody invited her and nobody told her about it. She's now speculating because she's heard that this Hamptons thing happened. So in her speculation, her gossip, and her innuendo, what does she do? She takes the opportunity to fling through a few arrows at some other good Christian men. Seth Dillon, Joel Berry, the Babylon Bee guy, Seth Dillon in particular, to accuse them. Oh, then they were at this intervention and they're to throw all these arrows at them and to lie about them and to then threaten them and tell them, release all your text messages. This is so disgusting. Again, this is before Charlie was even buried. Oh, and then she accuses falsely, what's his name? Adam King. He goes by Awesome Jew on Twitter. She says, I just found out Adam King was there too. Of course he was. Awesome Jew. He wasn't there. He didn't even know about it. Does she ever correct the record when these things come out, when people contradict her? No. Does she ever inform her audience I was wrong? No. A narcissist is never wrong. Are you kidding me? It's always somebody else's fault. The narcissist is never wrong. Did you see creepily how she talked? She didn't go to Charlie's funeral. She didn't go to his memorial service. Why not? Ask the people in her cult. Oh, she feared for her life. Bullshit. It's nobody wanted her there. Have you never met this kind of personality before? This antisocial personality who's burned every bridge except to other narcissists, where they have this kind of friendship where they a utilitarian relationship where they use each other, lesser and greater narcissists. Nobody invited me to the party, but I didn't really want to go. That was her whole thing. I'm going to go listen to Kanye instead. She didn't go to his memorial service. What a friend, right? Pissed, probably. Nobody asked her to spoke among the lineup of 30-something people or whatever it was. And so says she's not going and makes up some excuse, some stupid excuse. I'm glad she didn't go. I'm glad they didn't have to deal with her shit show. And then she does this video clip about how, well, Erica was speaking. It was so inspired. And she imagined herself like a dragon, and maybe Erica would call her in to set fire to all the liars and frauds there. You know, like, it's just this. I never hear any joy in this crazy person's voice. That's another. There's no joy. It's always this dark and twisted. Keep listening. I'm about to reveal something, guys. I promise. Trust me. How do I know? I confirmed it with myself. She said, I don't know, but I know. I spiritually know. I know. Just trust me. Okay, so we saw the statement from Charlie's pastor. Let's look at this. This guy on X put together a bunch of statements to try and collect in one place all this evidence to debunk. Also, here's the thing with grifters like her. It's hard to keep up with how much bullshit she churns out and where she's moved today. She's always slipping around and moving. Oh, now I'm over here. Now I'm talking about tunnels under the ground. Now I'm talking about Bill Ackman. And it's hard to keep. I don't want to read all that shit every day and have to try and debunk all that stuff. I'm like, if you can't figure it out, like, good luck. But I thought I would do this one. This is a long stream for me to address some of it. And this guy, helpfully, Eaton Fishburger, I'm probably saying that wrong. Eaton, I don't know. He put together a bunch of this stuff in one thread so people could find it. Thank goodness, because I don't want to collect all this. He says, I'm going to try and get a list going of the people who've debunked Candace Owens' bullshit Bill Ackman story, where she attacks Dillon and other people. So, okay, here's the first one. Andrew Colvett, who is the executive producer for Charlie Kirk and spoke at his memorial, and one of his closest friends. He says, I have been asked about the Bill Ackman event more than a few times now, so I asked our staff who were traveling with Charlie to find out what's true and what's not. His team was with him, quote, 100% of the time when he was not in his hotel room. They were with him anytime he wasn't in his room. Here's what they told me. Quote, Bill Ackman never yelled at Charlie. He never pressed him on Bibi. He never gave him a list of Charlie's offenses against Israel. All of that stuff she said, bullshit. There was concern raised about having Tucker at that event where he spoke that was mentioned before. There was concern raised about having him there. And also, again, we know that publicly. It was raised publicly, and Charlie talked about it publicly. they put in parentheses, we don't believe this concern came from Bill. It didn't even come from Bill Ackman. And Charlie's reply was, quote, honestly, people telling me not to have Tucker makes me want to have Tucker, and I'm going to lock him in for AmFest too, which again, that coincides with what we saw him tell Megan in that interview from a month ago. All this is consistent with what we know about Charlie. None of it is consistent with her story. Charlie personally told me he had a very cordial relationship with Bill and the event was productive. Those are the facts. Okay, let's continue. Number 2, White House reporter for Axios who spoke with people who were in the room. This is a White House reporter for Axios, and this is from somebody who was supposedly in the room. How that event was described in that story was not at all my experience. Bill's entire talk was about the economy and markets, maybe 1 or 2 questions about Israel. Okay, then we have Josh Hammer, who was literally in the room. He says, I was also there, and everything Andrew says is accurate. Bill Ackman himself, obviously. Here's what Bill said. This afternoon, Will Candace O slandered me by accusing me of staging the intervention with Charlie Kirk, in which threats were made with respect to his supposed evolving stance on Israel. He puts these all in quotes, of course. At an event I hosted in the Hamptons, Candace also intimated that I blackmailed Charlie. On the show, Candace said that she would be very happy for me to dispute this narrative. While it pains me to drive more traffic to her program, I'm responding here to clear my name. This is, again, when a narcissist attacks you, the advice is to gray rock them and to ignore them. Well, somebody who has the influence of a Candace Owens, how do you do that? No wonder Erica is going to have to address this. Like, how do you do that? And she's poisoning all of these different people and taking them down these crazy paths. Like, they demand attention. So Bill Ackman said, okay, I guess I'm going to have to address this. That's one choice. What do? You can't win either way. If he stayed quiet, they'd be like, see, it's all true. I hate what she's done. He says, well, it pains me to drive more traffic to a program. I'm responding here to clear my name. It saddens me that we live in a society where social media influencers seek to monetize the tragic death of Charlie Kirk. For the record, at no time have I ever threatened Charlie Kirk, Turning Point, or anyone associated with him. I have never blackmailed anyone, let alone Charlie Kirk. I have never offered Charlie or Turning Point any money in an attempt to influence Charlie's opinion on anything. In fact, my interactions with Charlie Kirk have been extremely cordial, albeit limited, regretfully so. And I was very impressed by him and his work, and I will sadly never see him again. In an effort to clear the record, I share the following. I have followed Charlie Kirk on X for some time and greatly admired him. While I didn't agree with Charlie on every issue, I had enormous respect for his intelligence, vast knowledge about religion, and his willingness to take on all comers in open mic sessions on campus and otherwise. Periodically, I would repost some of his posts and video clips. I connected with Charlie when he DM'd me in late May of this year and expressed interest in meeting me. In light of our respective schedules, we were unable to find a time to meet in person, so we scheduled a Zoom on June 11th. On the Zoom, he explained to me that conservatives, in particular young conservatives, were getting tired of defending Israel, and this was very concerning to him. He also talked about this in interviews, how he was going and doing these open mics on college tours, and he was getting so tired of all these people asking about Israel all the time, and he's like, I'm an American, I want to talk about America. I feel that frustration on X because no matter what I talk about, I never talk about Israel, by the way. This is the most I've ever talked about Israel today in this video. I never post about Israel. And I have all these woke right people in my replies all the time. And no matter what I'm saying, they want to make it about Israel. They can't see anything. You're like, I don't like bacon. And they're like, aha, Israel, like, or whatever. The thing is, it's like, that's all they can talk about. I am an American. I want to talk about America. And he was expressing this frustration as well. And so anyway, I'll continue with what Bill Ackman is saying. On the Zoom, Charlie also said that in his open mic conversations on campus, they were very effective in addressing issues on the minds of students, but he was only one person with limited bandwidth. He suggested that recruiting a group of junior Charlie Kirks who could host open mic sessions on college campuses would be an effective way to encourage debate on a host of issues, an approach that he believed to be worthy of consideration and better enable students to get to the truth. I expressed interest in learning more, and we thereafter scheduled a series of conference calls and Zooms with Charlie, Turning Point staff, and members of my team in an effort to assemble a diverse group of influencers who we could convene for a 1.5-day session. In addition to getting a better sense of what and where young conservatives were on the various issues, Charlie thought that doing so might enable him to identify potential candidates who could launch their own campus tours and carry forth his approach to dialogue. We chose the afternoon of August 4th to the afternoon of the 5th for the convening, and Charlie and members of my team worked to put together an invitation list. I offered to host the sessions in Bridgehampton and cover the costs so that I could attend some of the sessions as I was working from there at the time. Charlie sent out the invitations, and about 35 or so influencers accepted. Charlie estimated that the influencers who attended collectively had more than 100 million followers. Charlie and Turning Point put together the agenda for the meeting, and these were the topics. There were 4 topics. Number 1, the economic future of America. Number 2, the cultural landscape of dating and marriage. Number 3, the convergence of East and West. Number 4, Mamdani, the new threat to America. There's no Israel on that list. Charlie asked me to moderate the economic future discussion, which I did, and I thereafter hosted a Q&A session with the participants. The convergence of East and West included a discussion of immigration, value systems, the U.S. approach to foreign policy, and Israel. So that one did include Israel once they got into it, the convergence of East and West. While I had wanted to attend the convergence panel, I had a board meeting that conflicted with that session. He didn't even go to that session. Those that attended this session said that the Israel discussion was similar to the other sessions, with the attendees expressing varying points of view as well as explaining the views of their followers. Some participants were critical of Israel and U.S. support for Israel, and others were supportive. The sessions were punctuated by meals. I attended one group lunch and a group dinner where I sat with Charlie and others. I found the sessions I attended interesting, and I really enjoyed being the influencers. It gave me considerable perspective on what's on the mind of young Americans on a wide range of issues. At the end of the event, I sat with Charlie and members of my team, and we discussed the events of the convening. Charlie believed that he had identified a number of potential Turning Point ambassadors who could launch open mic events on campus, and that he would follow up with them. We agreed to keep in touch thereafter. We corresponded by text thereafter over the next few weeks on a range of topics that did not include Israel. The next thing I knew, he was gone. Oh, in short, this was not an intervention to blackmail Charlie Kirk into adopting certain views on Israel. It was nothing of the sort. I want to point something out. Turning Point has announced some of the people who are going to be speaking at the remaining events on this current Turning Point tour. And it's people who are already established and have big followings. It's like, I don't know, like Michael Knowles and Glenn Beck and Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson and Vivek and just different people are going to be speaking, right? Ali Beth Stuckey, I think, is one of them. And I'm very glad that they're keeping the tour and they're putting people out there. And I think I understand why they're using people with an established audience already. But I hope, and I'm confident that they have a lot of smart people there. I'm very excited to see what Erica Kirk does with the leadership. I think what would be very fitting for Charlie Kirk's legacy and what he was planning is to continue to do what he was already doing and to identify young people who have the similar tone and talents that Charlie had. Nobody can replace him. Nobody can be exactly him. But to find someone, they don't have to already have a huge audience. But maybe some of those people that he identified at that Hamptons meeting, which it seems like that was the purpose for him, and he said he had identified some people, to find those young people and put them out there with the microphones. We don't need the name yet. The name is Turning Point. The name is Charlie Kirk. If these people are able to hold their own and to encounter the kinds of questions he would get and the kind of pushback he would get from leftist audiences on campuses, if they're able to challenge those people with the grace that he had, the love that he had for people, and the truth and facts that he had, like that's ideal. I don't care about the names. And those names, none of those names on that list are going to do what Charlie did. They're not going to come close. They're going to be great. Some of them are going to be amazing. But he was already looking at incubating and finding young people who had some of those same talents that he had. Like, go find those young people, put them out there eventually. I hope that's what happens. That's an aside. I'm going back to this thread of people who've debunked this crap. So that was Bill Ackman's statement. Joel Berry. Well, Joel Berry shared the pastor's comment, which we already looked at. Then we've got this guy, Xavier DeRosso. I don't know him. One of the young people who attended, he was there. He was in the room at the Hamptons Shindig. Here's what he says. Clearing the air regarding the Hamptons trip with Charlie Kirk and Bill Ackman. Yes. Number one, what's true? Yes. Dozens of influencers, including myself, were invited to an event by Charlie and his team, not by Bill Ackman. They were invited by Charlie. This is not an intervention thrown by Bill Ackman. The whole way she painted this is so inaccurate and disturbing. I can't believe some of you are still, and there's no apology ever offered, right? Again, narcissist is never wrong, but I can't believe some of you are still on the drip feed of this poison. So Xavier, just like everyone else who was there, is like, actually, Charlie invited us. It wasn't a Bill Ackman intervention. Yes, dozens of influencers, including myself, were invited to an event by Charlie and his team, not by Bill Ackman. Charlie wanted to get to know rising conservative voices and where we stood on various issues. Number two, the subject matters were primarily about the following topics: Islam's growing presence in the West, marriage and dating, Mamdani, right-wing infighting, the economy, and various narratives regarding Israel. Number three, Charlie wanted to see us respectfully debate him and each other. There was a range of views there on every topic. He wanted to learn our perspectives and analyze our debating skills from an objective point of view. This all makes sense with what Bill Ackman said. He was looking for young talent who could do what he did on college campuses. He started each topic with a provocative statement to encourage the creators to debate. Example, one of the topics he started by saying, rough quote, "If I were to post right now, Bibi Netanyahu needs to resign, what would be the reaction?" This, of course, led to a number of responses. Someone said that the post would indirectly empower Hamas, and Charlie responded that her statement was moral blackmail, and that if she wants to debate the topic of Israel, she needs to work on using more facts and less emotion. The conversations with Charlie were less about what to believe. It was about how we express it if we want to truly make an impact. He was teaching them how to be effective debaters like he is, how to challenge things that leftists are going to say to them on these campuses. Bill and Charlie never debated or argued. Never debated or argued. Never debated or argued. I'm do the Candace thing and repeat it so you hear it. I don't know where that narrative came from. If it happened, it certainly wasn't around any of us. Bill mostly spoke about marriage and economics and then chilled with us. Number five, I'm not going to pretend to know every thought of Charlie's, but he very much stood with Israel. His frustrations expressed during the Hamptons event were that many people debated the topic emotionally rather than logically. Mind you, this was a small portion of the event. Number six, when Max Blumenthal from the Gray Zone, which I never heard of until he called, contacted me, I was wine drunk and boarding a boat in Italy. I was literally just confused why he was calling me and annoyed that he wouldn't tell me who gave him my personal number. Charlie was murdered a week ago. So when I got a call about the Hamptons trip, I was trying to assess what narrative someone was putting together. So no, Max, I didn't panic. By the way, Blumenthal, who I like a lot of his work, but I think he's extremely reckless with this piece that he did and allowing Candace to take it. They're like referencing each other now, him and Candace, about this Hamptons thing that neither of them were at, and they're both mischaracterizing it. So he says, hey, when you called me, person I never heard of, I was wine drunk. It was a week since Charlie died. I was getting on a boat. I was trying to assess what narrative you wanted. And he says, so no, Max, I didn't panic. I just don't trust you. It was giving stranger danger. You know he's Gen Z because that's how they talk. It's giving stranger danger. Lastly, nothing about the Hamptons trip from the point of view of creators was a, quote, intervention. Charlie designed the event and led it as a chance to listen to all of us and spark conversation in a way only he could. We were encouraged to keep using our voices and fight for what we believe in, regardless of where we fell on various issues. That's exactly who Charlie Kirk was, and my last memories with him in the Hamptons are something I will always cherish. Okay, that's his statement. Xavier, who was there. Okay. I'm about to lose my voice, but I want to cover it. I'm not used to doing these long ones. Here we go. Seth Dillon. I'm going to cover this one. Seth Dillon, who is being forced by this crazy narcissist, is my words, crazy narcissist. But he says, who is being forced into the incredibly uncomfortable position of having to post his private DMs with Charlie just to dispel the lies. Do you see how she forced people into doing disgusting things? And she did the same to Dave Smith. Publish your DMs. And so Dave Smith did a video which he teased and dragged out. I'm going to be publishing my DMs with Charlie. They're all publishing the DMs of the dead men. And he like dragged out his show promotion with it and tagged it. Tune in tonight and I'll read my DMs. And then you tune in and they don't reveal anything new. Charlie was polite, complimented him, told him the points he agreed with, told him he still supported Israel. Like, that's it. There was nothing there. All because of this lunatic narcissist. So here's Seth Dillon, who felt like he had to do this because he's being smeared and defamed by her. Seth Dillon, by the way, you know how I said Charlie was a sincere Christian man who I did trust? Well, Seth Dillon is another one. And this ghoul is relentlessly attacking him. Seth Dillon, on July 8th, I got a text from Charlie Kirk inviting me to a quote influencer retreat. The theme was Save the West. I told him I was available and I would see him there. Charlie invited him. You dumb. I will refrain from cursing. But, you know, she's attacking this man and saying he and Bill Ackman, it was an intervention, which it wasn't, that they staged it, which they didn't. He got invited. He got invited to this influencer conference where Charlie was trying to pick new talent. Seth Dillon was closer to Charlie Kirk than she was. Are you guys not are you not aware yet? Was she invited there? No. Had they appeared together? No. In over 15 months. July 8th, I got a text from Charlie Kirk inviting me to an influencer retreat. The theme was Save the West. I told him I was available and I would see him there. Very little information was provided, but it was a turning point event spearheaded by Charlie, so I assumed correctly that there would be some good people and a great program. The retreat took place in the Hamptons on August 4th and 5th. At least 30 people attended. I only knew a handful of them personally. An itinerary was provided when we arrived. There were meals and theme sessions covering topics like American identity, immigration, economics, and foreign policy. Charlie stood at the front of the room. He would speak a little, then open the floor for discussion. He drove the discussion with challenging questions, and there was spirited debate. If there were private meetings that took place, I wasn't in them. If there were angry confrontations, threats of coercion, I didn't witness or hear about any of it. Should evidence of such things come to light, it will be news to me. One concern Charlie raised, which I believe he also raised publicly, was about free speech. He felt that criticism of Israel was so discouraged, so penalized, that we aren't really free to voice it. Some in the room agreed with him. I argued that while it can come at a cost in certain contexts, it also pays pretty handsomely in others. There are people who have generated massive audiences and engagement by doing little other than criticizing Israel and Jews. Cough, cough, Candace Owens, cough, cough, Ian Carroll. Cough, cough, Jake Shields, Nick Fuentes, Anna Lupus, whatever that lady's name is. I pointed out that in my case, it was criticizing the critics that had come at a high cost. Yes. It's come at an exceptionally high cost for him to criticize some of these disingenuous, Jew-hating anti-Semites. Prominent figures on the right now have me in their crosshairs and as an enemy who must be destroyed. That I'm in a position where I feel the need to write this post and clear my name of any wrongdoing is only further evidence of this. After the retreat, I sent Charlie a text to let him know it meant a lot to me that he had wanted me there. He replied, "Of course, I'm here for you." I responded, "Same." He then shared a verse from scripture that has been on my mind ever since his senseless murder. Quote, "God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble." Psalm 46:1. I did not organize or participate in an intervention with Charlie. I was there at his personal request. I did not coerce him or threaten him or pressure him or witness anyone else do any of these things. We spent 2 days hearing from our friend, both his concerns and his wisdom, and he took the time to listen to and encourage each of us. He welcomed our feedback and debate. That's why we were there. I also didn't place any calls to try and stop anything from being published or publicized. On the contrary, Charlie's team reached out to me yesterday and told me not to respond to any inquiries about the retreat because they were being made in bad faith. Hell yes, they are. They said these people, quote, "These people have no good intentions during a time while we mourn our friend," end quote. They also apologized to me that I was being dragged into this and said that they were doing what they could to put false rumors and allegations to rest. I thanked them and told them I was sorry they were having to deal with it too. I'm sick with grief over the loss of my friend, and that sadness is compounded by the fact that instead of honoring Charlie and his legacy, his name is being exploited to generate controversy, confusion, and conspiracies. My heart breaks for everyone involved whose integrity and affection for Charlie are being called into question. I'm sure there will be responses to this that accuse me of dishonesty. I know in advance that they'll be coming from notoriously dishonest people. I've also attached screenshots of correspondence with Charlie and his team to support what I've said here. The fact that any of this is necessary is a disgrace. It is an absolute disgrace. It makes me want to cry. It makes me want to puke, all of it. So here he is putting out to prove what he's saying is true. This demon who's taunting him, slandering him. You better release your text messages. I'm not going to stop unless I hear from Erica Kirk. That's what Candace Owens is saying. So before Charlie was even buried, she is dragging and attacking his closest friends. And so he had to put this out. He had to share text messages from his friend. Here it is. What he said. Charlie Kirk texts him and on July 8th, and it says, August 4th, 5th, can you join us for an influencer retreat in the Hamptons? Seth Dillon responds, yes, I'm available. Any details you can share, let me know. Charlie gives him a little graphic that tells about the event. Seth replies, I can be there. Then afterwards, like he said, he texted Charlie, it meant a lot that you wanted me here. Glad I could offer my perspective. And Charlie says, of course, I'm here for you. And then Seth Dillon says, same. And then Charlie sends him that Bible verse, God is our refuge and strength, on August 6th. God is our refuge and strength, the very present help in trouble. With prayer hands, Psalm 46:1. And Seth hearted it. And there you go. Oh, wait. And then this one. This is, hi, Seth. Who's this one from? To Dylan Erickson. Hi, Seth. You've been in my thoughts and prayers this week, as I know it's been a hard week for all of us. I'm reaching out as we are hearing that there's reporters and influential figures looking for information about the Hamptons and have reached out to several people already. These people have no good intentions during a time when, while we mourn our friend. Please do not respond or make comment, and please send me any screenshots of messages you received about this. Please let me know if there's anything I can do for you during this time. So that's a text from one of Charlie's staff, like he said. So there you go. He had to do that. This good man had to do that because this demon is dancing on the grave of another good man. There's more. There's like 8, 9, 10. How many people are in this thread now of debunking her? Let me scroll down. There's more videos. 11. Then there's another who's a friend of both of them, makes 12. Penny, what's her name? Penny, who said she basically was making a plea for Candace to stop on behalf of the family. I'm losing my voice. I feel like I've given you guys enough. If you're like a lot of people on Facebook, especially women who have followed along with what Candace is doing, who are asking me, it's like they're shocked. Why are you not in the cult with us? Why do you not? What is Candace doing? Okay, this is your overview. She has secret knowledge that she never reveals with no evidence because there is none. She disparages people and attacks them. She gets caught in lies and fabrications, like saying that Adam King was there in the Hamptons, like saying Bill Ackman organized it, which he didn't, like saying it was an interview. And she never apologizes and never clears the record. She just moves to a different lie. She just steps over here and does this one. I'm not even going to play the video. Go look at it. The video today where she's talking about tunnels underneath Charlie. It is shameful. The more that you are in this, the more you listen to this crap and you accept the lies and the obfuscations, and you don't, do you notice? I guess maybe you don't notice that she never apologizes or corrects the record. Like, the threshold is being increased each time. You are being asked to violate more of your normal behavior. That's what happens in a cult. It's like a kind of grooming. It is a kind of groom, not a sexual groom, but it's an ideological grooming. You're being cult groomed. And to give more money, always more money, right? Behind the paywall, You got to pay to watch this, even though she married a guy who's like worth, what is he worth? 250 million. She's slinging t-shirts in her videos about Charlie and buy the new t-shirt. She says, oh, because I'm going to get to the bottom. I'm the only one investigating this. I'm the only one investigating. Buy my t-shirts to help fund my investigation. What do you guys wake up? Don't be so gullible. And especially don't participate. Don't be the flying monkey of someone doing disgusting things like this on the basis of nothing but gossip and slander and against the pleas of the family's pastor and closest friends and employees and everyone who is around. Like, stop it. Don't be used by these people for evil. It's like the woke left and how they use people for evil and they think they're doing good. They're little foot soldiers. I know it's comforting. And if you go back, watch the whole interview with Chase Hughes on Joe Rogan, or better yet, go to Chase Hughes' channel. He's got a lot of great content. He gets into like how people who don't have a lot of confidence really like to follow a confident person who's very assertive and says they have all the answers. It helps you understand the psychology behind it. Maybe you're one of these people in it, or maybe you want to understand the people around you who are doing this, who walk in lockstep so easily. I'm going to read a couple of these and then we're going to wrap up this exceptionally long video. Andrew Knapp, member for 7 months. Thank you, Andrew. Says Candace is becoming a lolcow. She is. She's been a lolcow for about 15 months. Yeah. And I will recommend a channel. I've mentioned it before. Go follow Nathan Livingston. Milk Bar TV. He's got great video compilations, especially people who are like, I want to see the receipts. And great. He's got it. He takes the time to go and find all these video clips and sort through the enormous cascade of bullshit coming out of this woman's mouth. Go find it. Yeah, she's a lolcow. Jeanette. Hey, Jeanette, for $5. Did anyone else see the police cam footage of when Tyler was pulled over 2 years ago? He talks just like those messages. I did see it. He got pulled over. There was a minor traffic accident. And also, some of the word languages he uses in the Discord messages is also similar. You know what I think would dispel this right away, Jeanette? The police, again, I watch a lot of true crime. I know some of you guys do. I hope, maybe they won't, I won't hold my breath, but I hope they would release more of the text messages between him and his lover, his boyfriend, because that will establish a baseline of what they normally talked like, what they normally sounded like. So everybody's looking at and saying, he doesn't sound like me. Well, he doesn't sound like a normal young person. No, he doesn't. No, and most normal young people are not assassins. Why would he sound like you? They're not. Most normal young people are not leftist assassins radicalized in a trans gamer cult, dating a trans furry and watching trans furry porn with minors. Like, that's, and he clearly had a high IQ. Like, why do you expect him to sound like you do in your text messages? So release some other text messages between them so we can establish a baseline of what they normally sounded like. I guarantee, I have a feeling you will see. I would like to see this confirmed, but release it. I think they probably sound like this all the time. My love, all that stuff. Thank you, Jeanette. Force a Light Entertainment for $10. Hey, what's up, Michelle? Thank you. Says, quote, the light shines in the darkness and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1:5. Keep shining the light. Keep speaking truth. For by it, people are set free. I love you, Michelle. You want to talk about sincere, good people that I don't doubt? Michelle's one of them. Michelle and her sister Natalie on Force Light. True blue, salt of the earth people who will speak truth and with love. And with patience. Michelle has a lot more patience than I do. I'll put it that way. Legalize adulthood for $50. Thank you for the super chat. What's up? I appreciate you being here. He says, who better to recognize cult behavior than a self-admitted former member? Go Keri. Yes, look, let me tell you. I will tell you about cults. I've studied a lot of them. I know I went up on some tangents about different ones, but legalize adult for $5. Thank you. Says, unrelated. Are you willing to share your Christian denomination, e.g. Presbyterian, etc.? Oh yeah, we don't have a denomination. We're non-denominational Bible preaching, Bible believing Protestants, but Bible believing church. You can find all of my pastor sermons on YouTube. It's Church on the Square in Georgetown, Texas. His name is Bradley Helgerson, so you can go and check them out. And I just shared his sermon, not from this past Sunday, but the Sunday before. He did a sermon about what the heavy topic, yes, like what happened to Charlie, about this evil that men perpetrated, and about the resentment that fuels that, and about choosing repentance and choosing, what's the word that he used? Rapture, choosing rapture over resentment. And it's a great sermon. I would highly recommend people go and watch it. I know he used to be Church of Christ. That was before they started Church on the Square, but our church is not Church of Christ. Let's see. I think I got, oh no, push-ups. Hey, push-ups for $2. Thank you for the super chat. It says, I think God will forgive you if you want to swear right now. Well, I did say a couple of BSs, right? But I didn't say that other word. Michael Collier for $9.99. Hey, Michael. He says, I've been quietly listening. It's nice to catch one live. That was a beautiful article you wrote last week. Hope all in the chat are doing well. Gotta fly. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks for being here, and thanks for the support. I'm not funded by anyone except chats. I'm not funded by the Jews. I get accused of a lot. Hey, the Jews, though, give me a call. I'm kidding. I'm joking. But it makes me laugh. I'm like, yeah, let me count my shekels. No, that's not happening. I appreciate the super chats for that reason. And half the time, I forget to even tell people how they can contribute if they want to. John Bertram for £5. Thank you, John. John Bertram is one of our resident atheists. We've got running the long game on you, John. I'm kidding. He says, thanks, Keri. It's a long overdue. Not much. I'm Brassic at the moment. Come on, fellas. Let's give a bit of love to Keri. That's so sweet, especially since you disagree with me so often. I appreciate it. And then some people were saying, this was during Charlie's interview with Megan when they were talking about Tucker. People were saying push-ups is like Tucker Carlson's not innocent, Charlie. Quote, Churchill was the bad guy and Israel was behind everything. Yeah, I don't agree with like I said, I was critical of. It took me a while. I was very reluctant. I dragged my feet, and it took a long time to make up my mind on Tucker because I didn't want it to be true in part, but also I wanted to be fair. But I think he's starting to do a lot more harm than good lately. Unfortunately, that's my opinion. I also think you're crazy to call Charlie an anti-Semite just for hosting him. So that's all I'm going to do today. I had a lot more stuff pulled up, but this would probably be 7 hours, and I'm not used to doing that. And I got to get back to the backyard. As I mentioned, you guys take off, and unless you care about the old house renovation. Where are my old house renovation people at? I'll tell you this. Like I said, we're on the backyard right now. We just we save up and then we pray. Every year there's a lot of prayer. Like, we don't know how we're going to do this. Well, we hope you will provide for figuring out how we're going to pay for some of the renovation this year. And then the thing is, like, God always provides. It's not like prosperity gospel crap where they're like, you should believe because you will have incredible wealth and have a helicopter and an island. No, it's not like that. It's not like beyond our means or more than we need. I'm just saying God provides. He provided for my surgery. He's still providing for my surgery. We haven't paid the whole thing off. He's still providing. And so anyway, every year we pray and then we figure out, okay, this is what we think we can afford. And then something happens. It's unexpected. Like the whole sewage line goes out. We have to pay for that. And then, you got to juggle things around and pray some more and figure it out. And so, yeah, we've been working on the backyard. That's been the goal this year. We originally were going to try to pay for the backyard and the kitchen, but the surgery had to happen. So the kitchen's put off for now. It's still going to happen, maybe next year. But yeah, I'm so excited. I would love some of you, the ones I know in person, have met in person. One of you guys over here yesterday, you know what we're doing. We're going to have like a whole outside area to hang out and relax and host events and have people over. We have house concerts. We'll be able to do stuff outside. And whenever we have our church feast, like they rotate the church, different families host like a get together, like a big meal. And so that'll be so fun to do it out there. And yeah, we did snap the internet cable, but that's all fixed now. And so, yeah, we're getting to it. My husband has done a lot. He's figured out, he did all these paths. I just have to brag on him. When he sets his mind to something, he just a drive and a will that I admire and respect. And he did all these paths with like 3 layers. Like he had to dig them out with a bobcat, and some of it he had to dig out by hand for the patio. And then he would do 3 layers of limestone and then crushed granite. It looks like dirt, but it's granite. And then a upper layer of white, like limestone pebbles. And he did the metal edging and everything. He's really particular about it. It looks so good. It looks professional. And yeah, so when we're all good, everything's said and done, this is going to be great. But I'm going to get back out there and see what I can do to help. And thank you for being here. I know this is a long video. If you like it, hit like, share, leave a comment. If you disagree, go right ahead, leave a comment. I'll see you guys later. See you on Wednesday. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.